and every early morning, New would bravely face the city's filth-cleaning sewers for the neighborhood. Though the job was grimy, it was the stepping stone for this man in his 30s who dreamed of becoming a legendary adventurer. He had to work swiftly before dawn broke, so no one would be disturbed. Mrs. Seller often called on him for such sewer work, as no one else dared touch the waste. After finishing that task, New rushed to the construction site to lend a hand. Alone, he bore the weight of all responsibility as a feat few could manage. Yet why could he pursue adventuring while others couldn't? It's almost magical. Thanks to him, everyone else's work time shortened since he handled everything. Just then, Maine's sharp ears caught a desperate call from the dungeon. Without hesitation, New sprinted inside to see what was happening. What awaited them was chaos, a fierce battle raging between humans and monsters. The enemy was a minotaur, skilled in weapon combat. Most would flee at the sight of a bull. Now they faced a beast far worse. The target was none other than the princess of this land. Years ago, back when Men was just a good-hearted boy caring for his family, life was simple but harsh. His father passed early, and his mother lay paralyzed from illness. Tough times forced New to mature beyond his years, the age when others played marbles. Despite hardships, his home was filled with warmth, where mother and son shared bright smiles. His daily work was tending sheep around their home. There was an unspoken rule: never stray beyond allowed bounds. Though his mother loved him dearly, she could do little but wish for him to live freely. One night, after New had prepared food for her, she quietly passed away, choosing silence over sadness. If tears could ease pain, New's heart was already bone dry. Donning the last shirt his mother made, he buried her beside his father's grave, silently promising to live as she wished. A year after his mother's death, New had grown stronger. Though isolated from the world, this place sustained him. After work, he would study alone, embracing solitude hour by hour. Then one day, New stumbled upon a book his father once told him about a tale of a legendary adventurer. The story spoke of a hero and his comrades who defeated a colossal dragon and performed incredible feats to protect others. No matter the hardship, this hero swung his sword for his friends and the happiness of those he loved. Inspired, New found a new purpose: to become an adventurer just like in that story. The next morning, New told his beloved animals to behave as he prepared to journey to the city. Before leaving, he paid respects at his parents' graves, speaking of his dream to become an adventurer. Nearing the edge of the forest, he saw a massive stone marking the boundary his mother had forbidden him to cross. But now, grown and determined, he stepped beyond that gate. After more than a day's travel, the young man finally glimpsed the city sprawling below. Guided inside, his eyes were met with bustling streets and lively crowds. Seeing an adventurer pass by, his excitement soared. Rushing to the guild, he sought to join, but the old man at the entrance coldly rejected him, mocking his dreams, saying he was. Even when a child was sent away, begging to join again, the elder hesitated, thinking his parents might worry. After a silent pause, the boy confessed he had no family left. Feeling a pang of sympathy, the uncle asked his name and explained how to become an adventurer. First step: attend a class training school. Though no precedent existed for someone his age, this place was for those dreaming to join the guild. This academy was where one chose their career path to become an adventurer. They had to master combat skills, mainly swordsmanship or magic. If he could learn either, he could come back to register. Initially, he chose swordsmanship, but his talent lagged far behind his peers, yielding no real achievements, while others quickly advanced. Continuing his journey of seeking mentorship over the years, he attempted every profession available, but none suited him. He learned only a little from each before being dismissed, bringing a heavy heart to meet the guild leader, who was taken aback. Despite trying all the short training courses over the past 3 months, he hadn't learned much, indicating he wasn't cut out to be an adventurer. Thus, Min's first journey here ended in disappointment. He believed he lacked any talent. He returned to his hometown to tend to fish and vegetables, thinking he had given up, but he hadn't. He couldn't even defend, let alone attack. Yet, he refused to give up and sought another school this time, a warrior academy. There, students mastered diverse weapons and shielded their comrades. Despite his efforts, after a few months, he was expelled for failing to learn anything beyond physical training. Undeterred, he pursued various professions over several years, sampling all kinds of roles, yet none fit. He barely grasped any skills before being cast out. Heart heavy, he confided in the guildmaster, who was shocked. Despite completing all short 3-month training courses, he hadn't learned much. This revealed a cruel truth. Adventuring wasn't meant for him. His first journey had ended in bitter disappointment, no talent, no future. He returned to his birthplace to tend fish and vegetables. Many thought he'd given up. But no, If talent failed, relentless practice was the answer. From everything he'd learned, he realized that honing one skill deeply could birth new abilities. His strongest asset, the art of parrying countering attacks. He started with 5 wooden sticks, dreaming of knocking them all down in one strike. Time passed. After 1 year, he could deflect 10 swords at once, but still no new skills emerged. 3 more years went by, and now he could parry 100 blades simultaneously, but mastery still eluded him. His dream of becoming an adventurer seemed forever out of reach. Yet day after day, from dawn till dusk, he continued his solitary grind. Another 10 years slipped away. Now, Min's parry could fend off 1,000 swords at once or more, if he had the space to hang them all. The air around the dark forest pulsed with his achievement. 14 years of relentless training, and still no other skill in sight. This time, he decided to try registering again, sending a message to his parents. This was his last shot. After filling out the application, even the receptionist was stunned he'd tried everything, yet only barely scratched the surface of each skill. She tried to help, but knowing he'd exhausted all options, she admitted defeat. The same uncle from before appeared, shocked to see him again. Recognizing Min from years ago, he was taken aback. So many attempts, yet no success. He explained the guild's rules. Even the lowest rank required mastery of 2 skills to earn a license. Min's 14 years of effort weren't in vain. The uncle offered him a chance, a rank lower than E, called F. Those in F were weak but eager. Their tasks were limited to monster hunting, herb gathering, or menial labor, like hauling loads or cleaning up jobs no one else wanted. Why would Min accept? Because even this low rank carried the hope of future promotion. The guildmaster pleaded with him to reconsider, but Min persisted, so they issued him an F-rank license. Without a flashy card, this was still the realization of his dream. Thanks to 14 years of non-stop training, his physique was extraordinary. Though doing small chores, he found joy. Knowing a bit of everything wasn't so bad. He lived this way for years. Now, Min faced a monster even strong adventurers feared. The princess's guards died instantly trying to protect her. One by one, others fell beneath the beast's wrath. Only the little princess remained, frozen and controlled by the creature. Min calmed himself and hurled a stone with all his might. The Minotaur winced and turned toward Min, clearly stalling to buy time for the girl to escape, unaware she couldn't move. Luckily, Min's parry skill had reached its peak, allowing him to hold his ground. But his sword was fragile. Each heavy blow from the Minotaur shattered it faster. One hit would force Min to quit. Helpless beyond counterattacks, he glanced at the princess still frozen. Letting that girl escape, unaware she couldn't really run luckily, his counterattack skills had reached their peak, allowing him to stand his ground. But the sword he wielded wasn't as durable. Each strike from the Minotaur, a beast weighing tons, shattered it quickly. He knew just one hit from that monster would mean the end, leaving him no choice but to rely solely on his counterattacks. Turning to look at the girl, she remained frozen in place as the raging bull suddenly charged at her, aiming to kill. It seemed controlled by some dark force. At the critical moment, Men teleported to block the attack. To others, his skills might seem ordinary, but after 14 years of relentless training, Men had transformed them into something extraordinary. He recalled his father's tale of a legendary adventurer hailed as a hero. Thinking, even if I die here, I must fight like him at least once. Men pressed on. Though his sword was shattered, its hilt remained intact. Using it, he launched a successful counterattack, knocking away the Minotaur's weapon and sending the beast reeling. Only then could the princess move and offer heartfelt thanks to Men. Yet he hadn't realized his true strength, simply believing he was still too weak to roam the world doing good. When asked his name, Men remained silent, thinking someone like him didn't deserve to be remembered, especially since he hadn't saved those people. He left amidst the princess's stunned gaze. Lin, the princess, then gathered her troops and safely returned home. Meanwhile, Men, back in the city, reflected on how a mere bull could shake him to his core. Feeling useless, he vowed to train harder. That very night, the princess's clean-up crew arrived at the scene to investigate the rampaging Minotaur. Many soldiers had sacrificed their lives protecting her. The girl also came to pay deep respects to them. At that moment, her guard wanted to accompany Lin, but this was the royal right of Passagier trial to inherit the throne, so it wasn't allowed. The girl asked Inez to stay behind, taking no offense. Another general then arrived to inform the princess to return to the castle, as her older brother was deeply worried. After speaking with his sister, he sensed something was off. This was no mere accident but a carefully plotted assassination attempt. The Minotaur was only found in Abyss's deepest labyrinth layers, yet it had appeared on the very first floor, proving someone had summoned it. The cause might be the ring found on a merchant's corpse. The kingdom's mage examined it and recognized it was inlaid with an exceptionally pure magic stone, a rare gem exceeding all standards, not sold on any market. That bull was no ordinary beast. Moreover, it left traces of magic, revealing its origins trace back to the Delias Empire. Ren has also surmised that they are behind this, as tensions between the two nations are escalating. They have repeatedly caused trouble for F, using summoning magic and binding spells in their attempts to eliminate Lin. They haven't even bothered to erase their tracks, seemingly provoking a war on this side. The Empire is thriving. Should a true conflict arise, Feta would be at great risk. What they covet are the resources found only within the labyrinth. More importantly, Ren wants to uncover the identity of the man who saved his sister. He's heard tales of how this man managed to take down that minotaur with just a few strikes using a dull sword. His troops had tried to track the creature but were swiftly outmaneuvered, as if they were chasing a phantom. The next morning, Nu arrived at the Adventurers Guild as if yesterday's ordeal had never happened. This surprised the guildmaster, who thought he'd be dead after the encounter, given that the monster's lair was where he worked. Yet this young man seemed unfazed by the previous day's events, continuing with his daily chores for the townsfolk. It turns out he was being followed last night and didn't dare return to the guild to report the incident. It was already known that an A-rank adventurer had perished at the hands of that monstrous beast. Nu, unaware, thought the elder was referring to the minotaur he had defeated, believing he had merely fought a bull and that the creature had given him a hard time. He'd also heard rumors of a young man who had taken down that high-tier monster in a single blow. It's quite amusing, really, how Nu thinks there are so many strong individuals out there. After receiving his reward from yesterday, the elder continued to inquire whether he had considered taking on other jobs. Nu, puzzled, wondered why he would need to do anything aside from being an adventurer. The elder explained that he was only doing it for fun, as the assigned jobs hardly paid well. Just then, Lin unexpectedly appeared, leaving Nu utterly shocked. "Isn't this the girl I saved yesterday?" With a single strike that's downright hilarious, thinking there are countless strong people out there. After collecting his reward yesterday, Uncle continued to ask if Men had thought about another job. Men seemed like he was just playing at being an adventurer, maybe working just for fun. Uncle was persistent, but Men treated the assigned work as a game, not a real source of income. Just then, Lin BX suddenly appeared, shocking Nu. "Isn't she the young lady he saved yesterday?" The princess herself used a remote tracing spell because she had contact with him the day before. The guildmaster suspected she might be royalty, but wasn't sure why else would someone like her join this guild. Nu didn't know her true identity either, and maybe she had lived in the mountains since childhood. So, she probably didn't even know what a princess truly was. Their conversation drew attention from those nearby. Judging by Lin BX's presence, everyone knew she was no ordinary person. Realizing the noise they were making, she persuaded Men to move elsewhere. Uncle approached Nu, asking if there had been any huge trouble. He shrugged, saying he didn't know much, but if invited, why not see what's up? Lin BX then activated invisibility and sound suppression so no one could eavesdrop. Her skills were truly remarkable, walking through the streets without a single soul noticing. Once they reached a quiet corner, Lin BX apologized for interrupting the guildmaster's conversation. Men asked why she sought someone like him. Simply put, she wanted to express her gratitude properly for saving her life. More than that, if that monster had escaped, many more lives would have been lost. Nu, unaware of his own strength, only praised her incredible stealth skills in return. Not knowing what else to say, he hesitated to accept thanks. But Lin BX insisted on repaying the debt, and Men accepted her gratitude, no questions asked. As a princess who has been rescued, the entire kingdom owes him. Lin wishes to give him something special, but having grown up in the wilderness, he is unaccustomed to wealth or material possessions. To him, a simple thank you is more than enough. Lin mentions that her father wants to meet the hero who saved his daughter and invites him over. Hearing this, he continues to decline, leaving Lin in disbelief. What kind of person refuses such generosity? After being turned down multiple times, Lin is moved to tears because she genuinely wants to repay him. She can't find peace at night, haunted by the thought of not being able to show her gratitude. So, she shifts her approach, urging him to accept the debt of gratitude, insisting that he must accept it, or she would keep bothering him. Faced with this stubborn girl, he finally agrees. Remembering that he once had a similar stubbornness himself, he makes it clear that he's only going to meet her father and doesn't want any gifts. Upon hearing this, Lin's spirits lift, and she eagerly wants to head back and meet her father, avoiding the eyes of others. They soon arrive at her home, a massive castle. He can't help but think this is the grandest house in the capital. Inside, when Lin introduces him as Nu, the most humble farmer, she allows him to call her Lin, as it's the name she registered as an adventurer. If she had used her full title, the guild would be in shock. As they continue, They encounter Lin's guard, Inez, who initially mistakes him for a maid. Inez is extremely cautious, aware that this man saved the princess. They then meet another guard, who looks rather arrogant. Upon seeing Lin's guest, he immediately points his weapon at him, realizing he's the one who defeated a monster. He judges him based solely on appearances, failing to see the strength within. Inez remains vigilant, urging her companion to call for backup. Meanwhile, inside, Ren is discussing with the king the potential threat posed by the Delius, despite the peace treaty. Things are becoming uncertain, as they had just spoken with them, and it seems war might break out any day now. At this moment, Nu is ushered inside, completely unaware that he is standing before the king, who doesn't mention anything about it, as he is the savior of his daughter. The king apologizes for his overly casual attire, however, he doesn't mind, and Nu clarifies that he isn't of noble birth, so they shouldn't blame him for not knowing the proper etiquette. Hearing this, the king chuckles, finding him quite amusing. He expresses his gratitude on behalf of a father. If it weren't for Nu, he would have had to bid farewell to his daughter, which brings him immense joy. Before Nu can respond, the king insists on repaying him, not wanting to let his benefactor leave empty-handed. He offers land, money, or anything he desires. However, Nu declines, stating he wants nothing in return. The king persists, suggesting a treasure from the labyrinth, but Nu has no idea what that is. This shocks both father and daughter, as the man before them seems completely uninterested in material wealth. Even when offered half of the treasure from the labyrinth, he still refuses, accepting only words of gratitude. The king is perplexed, unsure of what to offer next until he remembers his ancestral sword. Although it looks shabby, it's actually very powerful. Inez is hesitant to part with it, having fought alongside it for many years, but the king insists he can't use it anymore, and it would be better to give it away than let it gather dust. Nu accepts the sword, thinking it's not worth much since it looks so dirty and worn. He takes it to make the king happy. As he holds it, he is shocked by its weight, and the onlookers are astonished that he can even lift it. He checks with the king if it's truly valuable, otherwise he will refuse it. The king lies, saying he found it, so Nu innocently accepts it. When the king tells him to try swinging it, he does so, managing to wield it one-handed while producing a tremendous force. Although it is heavy, he finds he can handle it well, thanks to his enhanced physical abilities. The king is thrilled to have found a worthy owner for the grand sword, assuring him it is durable and won't break easily. They also ask Nu to teach Lin a thing or two, but he hesitates, feeling he has no skills to impart. He believes learning should be left up to the children rather than forcing it upon them. As he speaks, the two guards behind him are itching to jump in and take advantage of the situation, amazed at how casually he talks to the king. The king, however, finds it amusing and laughs heartily, saying that Nu is probably the first person to speak so freely with him in years. As the meeting comes to a close, Lin excuses herself, stating she must return to her tasks. On the way back, Nu contemplates using the sword for training, suddenly recalling that its width is just right for fitting into a sewer. Tomorrow, he might just use it to clean up the mess more effectively. The king was delighted to have found the perfect wielder for the great sword. He mentioned how tough it was, so men need not worry about it breaking. They also asked Men to teach Lin a few techniques, but Men laughed, doubting he had skills to offer compared to her. Besides, teaching and learning should be left to the young, not forced by their elders. At this point, two others tried to eavesdrop, but Men shut them down. Speaking to the king with that bold attitude about teaching, what a character! The young lady's father was amused, laughing heartily. This might be the first time in years someone spoke to him on equal footing. With today's events concluded, Nu excused him still had to haul cargo back home. On the way, he thought about using the sword to train, suddenly recalling its width just fits a sewer grate. Maybe tomorrow he'd try using it to unblock the drains might be more effective than usual. At that moment, Inez approached with a serious expression, wanting to talk. Expecting a scolding, she instead dropped to her knees, apologizing for doubting a man so honestly good-hearted. Nu said he didn't care about that, so she shouldn't worry. Only then did he realize she wasn't a servant after all. Inez was pretty funny, like someone who just fell from the sky, so blissfully clueless it was almost divine. She reintroduced herself as the vice-captain under the Clay family, carrying the sacred title of the Shield of the Gods since childhood, sworn to protect Lin. Yet, she failed to save him the other day, and that guilt gnawed at her like acid. Saving that person was saving her own soul, so she vowed to give her all to help him from now on. Knowing this, he agreed, saying he'd call on her if anything came up. She also warned him not to act too familiar with others next time, especially forgetting that those people were kings of the G Kingdom. Inez still didn't grasp the gravity, thinking they were just wealthy nobles. After learning his name was Nu, the girl suddenly had a reaction and asked to leave. Just as she turned away, The sleepy young man blocked her, saying, "You're back early, brother. I want to duel to see how strong you really are." He was at a loss, unsure what this boy wanted, while all he wanted was to go home and rest. Arriving at the training grounds for the castle warriors, Nu had never sparred with anyone since leaving school and felt a spark of excitement. Dubose reintroduced himself once more, saying though he looks unassuming, he's got a name in the capital. Fighting Nu was fitting. "Choose any weapon you like," he said. "All right, let me have a go." Their battle confused onlookers because Dubose was undefeated the champion here. Yet someone dared challenge him, eager to test his own strength. As the fight began, Dubose charged with masterful spear skills undeniably skilled, but his speed was no match for Nu's haste. Nu dodged every strike effortlessly, suspecting his opponent was holding back, seeing himself as just a rookie. Observing Dubose's spear dance, Nu guessed this warrior must have trained endlessly to reach such heights. After a while, Dubose called a halt, saying he was still fine and urged Nu to fight full out, no need to go easy. Nu thought since this was a human opponent, he'd unconsciously held back, so he apologized and sped up his attacks, doubling the pace. Yet, Nu still evaded everything with ease. In the midst of dodging, he noticed his opponent's defense was almost non-existent, too many openings at the back. To Nu, this felt like an invitation to strike, but Dubose's attacks seemed to say otherwise. Knowing he'd already exerted much energy without landing a hit frustrated Nu deeply. Never before had he faced such a baffling adversary. Meanwhile, Dubose was struggling to land a blow, throwing out an illusory thrust that shifted the spear's trajectory mid-air, shocking Nu. Just as Nu leapt up, Dubose unleashed his finishing move, but Nu still dodged it. Dubose kept insisting he was fine and could go faster. This drove Dubose mad. He was giving it his all but still underestimated. In his mind, Nu wondered if his opponent had held back or if his own training had finally made him stronger. Just as his spirits lifted, Dubose unleashed his rare, ultimate Technicaea deathly strike, used sparingly because it meant certain death for the foe. There was no defense, too many openings from behind. The enemy thought it was an invitation to attack, but Men's counter was the opposite. He'd already used a lot of strength, yet not a single strike landed. This feeling was maddening, for he'd never faced an opponent like this before. Yet that arrogant guy still thought Men was weak, while his rival wasn't taking things seriously at all. Struggling to land a hit, Men saw the beast launch a phantom spear thrust, shifting the spear's trajectory. It shocked him. Just as Nu leapt high, the beast unleashed its finishing blow, but Men dodged it. Still, he said he was fine and could fight faster. The beast grew furious, clearly giving his all but still being underestimated. In his mind, the god of war wondered if this guy had truly unleashed his full power yet. "Maybe it's because I trained hard, I've gotten a bit stronger. Just when things felt a little lighter. You know, he unleashed his ultimate move, the one he rarely uses because once it hits, it's deadly. So he's always cautious, but after being provoked too much by Men, he finally decided to strike. Yet, somehow, Nu dodged it effortlessly, sliding aside without anyone noticing it was him. That dodge was unreal, witnessing such a godlike skill. Even the farmer guy threw in the towel, scared to keep fighting. Soon after, Nu was allowed to leave. Thinking back on that move, it was truly dangerous. Inside, people were stunned, unable to believe Men could really evade the captain's ultimate attack. They thought the gust of wind just blew him away. No way. He dodged a death blow moving at sound speed. Only a few, like RB, truly understood who they were up against. He's always hailed as a rare genius with a spear, confident he could beat anyone. Talented, yes, but this young man tirelessly sharpens his fighting skills, growing stronger every day. Yet, that very power breeds discontent. There's no one here worthy to face him in a real fight. So arose his desire to seek out the strongest warriors across the lands, to battle and grow his potential. The village chief also shared rumor saw, kingdom's ties with neighbors are strained. The country is recruiting elite fighters to protect its borders. The stage is set for the rise of legends. This relentless pursuit of a worthy opponent leaves him feeling increasingly despondent. Seeking solace, he confides in his master, who surprisingly is also the one who taught him the intricacies of combat. Presently, his master has been bestowed the noble title of Sacred Spear, yet he remains modest, yearning for a rival who can match his prowess. While his master holds Inez in high regard, RB, on the other hand, is hesitant to engage in battle with her, for her strength lies in a different realm. If they were to spar, he might dominate, but in a true fight, the outcome is uncertain. His master, feeling a sense of stagnation due to the lack of worthy students like RB, still believes in the importance of collective strength. One day, all must unite to protect the kingdom, for a mere handful of strong individuals cannot suffice. Yet, he holds on to the hope that one day, someone even stronger than himself will emerge, a sentiment echoed by RB. Recently, he witnessed a display of overwhelming power that left a lasting impression on him. Initially, his thoughts about this formidable figure were less than favorable. He found him rather foolish, indifferent to everything around him. Their interactions were more like those of acquaintances than rivals, yet there was nothing to truly despise about him. However, RB couldn't gauge the true extent of his own capabilities until the recent battle. He learned that merely attacking at the speed of sound wasn't enough, as this opponent could move far beyond that, making him feel utterly outmatched. Witnessing that moment marked RB's first defeat in this kind of battle, a bitter pill to swallow. To add insult to injury, this opponent conceded defeat as if to preserve his pride in front of his subordinates. RB felt a twinge of frustration, but as he left the arena, the parting words of his opponent, expressing a desire to meet again, calmed him. Yet, looking down at the arena floor, he was taken aback by the imprint of his opponent's foot and absurdity that left him questioning how such a powerful figure could go unnoticed amid the chaos. Despite this humiliating defeat, he vowed to grow stronger and return for another chance. Meanwhile, his opponent, now carrying a colossal sword back to his abode, reflected on feeling inferior to this rival. He had pushed his limits to dodge, yet in the last moment, had RB not adjusted his speed, he might have been struck down. Previously warned of the dangers of complacency, he resolved to train hard. The next morning, he resumed his mundane duties, but today, he wielded the king's legendary sword, using it to swiftly clean up the messes of the day. It was indeed a ridiculous sight, what would the onlookers think, if they caught him wielding a national treasure for such trivial tasks. Yet, RB found joy in how perfectly the sword fit into its sheath. With just one swing, the mess was cleared. The sword's durability was guaranteed by the father of a girl he knew. Being a blade without an edge, it was impervious to chipping. After completing his chores, he pondered his next move. While he had the sword for clearing out obstructions, his lifting duties were stalled due to previous mishaps. He had to wait for assignments from his guild, longing to lend his strength to alleviate his boredom. Suddenly, an idea struck. Perhaps he could go rowing, as the sword resembled a paddle. The king, witnessing such a spectacle, might just faint from disbelief. Who would dare use a national treasure for such foolish endeavors? RB continued to brainstorm various uses for the sword, from cleaning up to grilling delicious food, relishing in the possibilities. At that moment, Lin BX sought him out, recalling Ines's advice to maintain a distance from others. He played it cool, but the girl sensed something was off. She urged him to act normally. When he inquired about her intentions, she expressed the desire to become his attendant. After being denied the chance to be his apprentice previously, she hoped to follow him and learn the ways of combat. RB promised not to take advantage of her, but still declined her offer, leaving the little princess feeling that she had overstepped. Perhaps, she thought, he feared being encumbered. Determined, she boasted about her ability to wield 6 elemental magics. Yet, RB remained firm, insisting that he had nothing of value to teach her. He was adamant that he didn't need any payment for her companionship. He felt he had only basic skills that anyone could master. Lin BX felt disheartened, believing she would only hinder him. But she was resolved to prove her worth. After her declaration, she unleashed a wave of ice magic, which he countered with fire, creating a stunning visual display. However, this only made RB more determined to refuse her, realizing how skilled she truly was. Not only was she adept in magic, but she also excelled in close combat techniques that he couldn't even fathom mastering. Despite showcasing new skills that left him in awe, Lin BX was still met with rejection. She thought there must be some misunderstanding about his abilities, but in reality he only knew a few basic techniques. The more she displayed her talent, the more he felt inadequate. Here he was, a grown man, feeling inferior to someone not yet 18. Lin BX persisted, believing that she could eventually be useful to him, yet struggled to find the right words to convey her intentions. Linbox promised not to overstep, but Nu declined her offer, making the little princess think she'd failed him or that he feared entanglement. She boasted she could wield 6 magic elements, but Nu said that wasn't true. He had nothing to teach her from the start. Still, he refused payment or help. Linbox was sad, thinking she would just be a burden. Determined to prove her worth and earn his respect, she immediately attacked herself with ice magic, while Nu countered with fire, melting the ice in a dazzling display, something that would only make Nu more hesitant to accept her help. Not only was she skilled in magic, but this little princess also excelled in close combat, showcasing many unique moves Nu couldn't learn. Despite her talents, Linbox was still rejected outright. She probably misunderstood Nu's true strength. He only knew a few basic skills any beginner could do. The more she showed off, the more childish she seemed, still under 18 while he was older. Linbox pleaded to accompany and assist, hoping to be useful someday, but Nu struggled to find words to make her understand. Finally, he decided to reveal his own underwhelming skills, hoping to show her his limits and quietly retreat. Her abilities were impressive, but when Nu demonstrated his own, she was shocked. On the way back, Lin Box recalled a tale about a talentless boy, told by trainers at the academy. Most thought it was just a legend to inspire training. This boy endured brutal courses at 6 academies in the capital since age 12, someone extraordinary hiding behind an ordinary facade. The boy was none other than Nu himself, seemingly average, yet truly exceptional. Lin Box once believed no one could match him, but after witnessing Nu's skills firsthand, she knew the legend was real, not a fairy tale. She even saw the strongest royal mage demonstrate a basic skill called Petit F, something anyone could do, but with enough practice it could grow into something powerful. Nu's journey was a testament to relentless training and hidden strength. If you ever felt powerless like Nu, take a moment to breathe and ask yourself, how did I survive my darkest days? Sometimes, what we need isn't raw power, but someone who believes in us, just once. Let's draw closer to the world inside us, where anime characters touch wounds we thought were only ours. Amid chaos, maybe anime isn't just entertainment, it's a sanctuary for the soul. If you were in Nu's shoes, would you choose to keep fighting or give in? If you saw yourself in this story, maybe anime isn't fiction, maybe it's a mirror. And if you're lost between choices in life, may this story remind you, even a small light can guide the way. Thanks for sharing this journey with me. Just a little bit bigger, it looks stunning. To grow as large as him, it would take over 200 years, but for her, it was just a tiny spark, no more, no less. So how on earth could M's power level be as big as a ball? It's utterly absurd, a mage living over 200 million years to reach the size of a few fingertips, yet Nu's is 10 times bigger. And that's not all. He said his other basic skills were at that level too, which only shocked her more. She began to think she was too weak, not strong enough to follow him, which led to a deep misunderstanding. But, in a way, it was a blessing. Nu became a beacon lighting her path. To think someone as powerful as him doesn't flaunt his strength. Later, alongside Hong Hoon, they'd lead their nation. Lin Bok grew even more eager to follow this man and learn from him. That night, just after dinner, Nu was found by his younger sister, who admitted she understood her own vulnerabilities and hoped he'd look after her, to follow him not immediately as a disciple. Finding her stubborn, he had no choice but to accept. Meanwhile, Lin's older brother was wondering why their father entrusted the kingdom's most precious sword to him. Its origin dated back to when the king was still an adventurer, exploring dungeons. Back then, he and the strongest warriors reached the deepest floors with no way back. After years risking everything, they finally retrieved the dungeon's most powerful relic, entire sword forged from an unknown material, harder than anything on Earth. Every attempt to destroy it failed, not even a scratch could be made. That's why it's called the indestructible sword. Its worth isn't just as a treasured blade, but as the kingdom's sacred treasure. Yet, their father gave it to Nu, showing he sensed a looming danger. He's gotten old and can no longer wield the sword like in his youth. The arrival of men may be the key to this nation's fate. Right now, Nu is the trump card for the coming storm. Meanwhile, Nu and Lin Bok were out eating casually. Men still hesitated to call himself her master. When the princess asked if traveling like this was safe, he assured her they were undercover as adventurers, so no one would notice. After the meal, he planned to visit the guild for some business, but the girl insisted on coming along. Knowing he couldn't refuse, the young man resigned himself, thinking she'd get bored quickly once they arrived. At the guild, a man aware of Lin Bok's identity asked men why he was with her. Nu found it hard to explain, saying this matter wasn't easy. The guild's rules forbade prying into personal affairs, so they dropped it. Men asked the man to assign a manageable mission for both of them. Lin Bok, being a B-rank adventurer, could handle some contracts, and with men accompanying her, they could take on monster exterminations. He suggested they start by hunting some goblins around the capital. Nu was stunned, never expecting his life to involve goblin slaying. Goblins are fierce but relatively weak creatures, often used as training foes for new adventurers. Thanks to his students' privileges, Nu could take a silver-ranked mission solo, but with men tagging along, goblin hunting was the perfect fit. Seeing this as a good opportunity, Nu felt like he was taking advantage of others to get higher-ranked missions. Lin Bok didn't care about that. She just wanted to learn combat skills by going together. When men saw her looking at him that way, he thought she had an ulterior motive, only to realize she saw right through him. He then teasingly asked if she minded taking the mission. At first, he was told not to worry about the petty stuff, just focus. That reassurance sparked a quiet confidence as he stepped out, sword in hand. But barely moments later, he was called back, typical rookie move, rushing off before getting all the intel. As always, the guildmaster drilled in the same lesson. Safety comes first. If you can't win, run. The mission spot was deep within the haunted forest, a place crawling with deadly beasts. We're tasked with gathering medicinal herbs known for their healing properties, and I suspect the count will be low. If we fail to find any monsters, we can at least collect some herbs. Together, we step through the portal towards the forest of monsters, beginning our journey to hunt goblins for the first time. The density of the trees here is unlike anything back home. Curious, I ask Lynn about goblins. She explains that they usually feast on wild fruits or small animals like rabbits, but humans are also on their menu. Their breeding rate is alarming, so adventurers regularly hunt them to keep their numbers in check. The forest is rich with rare herbs, making it a training ground for new adventurers. I can't help but admire Lynn's expertise. She seems to have so much knowledge. I wonder why she chose to follow me for learning. As we delve deeper into the thick mist, I sense something unusual. Lynn checks for goblins but finds nothing. Typically, we'd encounter a few, but instead, we're met with the aura of another creature. With nothing better to do, we decide to investigate, and the atmosphere grows darker as we venture further. The overgrown trees block out the sunlight, creating a chilling ambiance. Suddenly, Lynn seems to lose track of the creature we sensed earlier. I hypothesize that perhaps they've succumbed to old age, but upon inspection, we find no corpses. Instead, I feel a wrongness in the air, and look up to see a goblin being devoured. Lynn soon realizes we've stumbled upon a high-tier goblin. Initially, I thought it was just an ordinary goblin, the weakest of monsters. Yet, its size is terrifying, leading me to believe I might just be too weak for this. The creature, annoyed by our presence, growls in irritation, and I notice Lynn's apprehension. Surely, it's due to her lack of battle experience. This creature is no match for her youth. I urge her not to fear, it's just a goblin after all, but our thoughts diverge. Lynn believes this is merely a common goblin, while I wonder if I'm underestimating it. Does she think I knew about this from the start? Her confidence begins to build, and she prepares for battle. The goblin swings a massive tree trunk at us, but I manage to deflect it with my enhanced sword. Even with my powerful blade, I'm pushed back. Recognizing the danger, I counterattack, sending the creature reeling. In that moment, Lynn casts a spell, but it barely phases the beast. The goblin is agile, dodging our strikes and looking for a chance to retaliate. With its strength, it uproots trees to use as weapons against us. Lynn realizes the monster's rapid regeneration is exceptional, while we're starting to tire. She points to the enormous mana crystal on its head, suggesting we target that. But before we can execute our plan, the goblin changes tactics, likely aware of my limited counter abilities. It launches 3 logs into the air, followed by another aimed directly at us. Thankfully, Lynn steps in, using her magic to push us back just in time. She realizes the goblin is harnessing the mana crystal to heal itself during the fight. My mind races. If her magic isn't enough, what can I do? Regaining my composure, I ask her if she can help propel me forward. The goblin is cunning, keeping its distance for ranged attacks. Things took a sharp turn before any attack could land. The goblin lord shifted tactics, clearly sensing the limits of our counterattacks. Lynn skillfully hurled 3 logs high, then tossed another straight ahead, testing their defenses. Luckily, a talented apprentice stepped in with magic to push them back. Just as suspected, the monster was using a cursed mana stone to heal itself automatically. This battle was beyond anything we imagined. Nu realized that if even her magic couldn't touch it, what could they possibly do? Regaining resolve, he asked his apprentice if she could push him closer to the target. That creature was too clever, keeping distance and striking from afar. Lynn hesitated. Using magic on the enemy could backfire, leaving the master seriously injured. The cursed mana stone was powerful enough to tear down walls, but not the legendary unbreakable sword. So Nu planned to use the sword itself as a shield to absorb some damage. Hearing this, the apprentice understood immediately and began her spell. As the goblin lord prepared to strike, she cast a spell that propelled Nu forward at blinding speed. Initially disoriented, Nu's sheer determination let him master his momentum, bolstered by enhanced physical strength to keep balance. The attack caught the monster off guard. The beast couldn't react fast enough as Nu soared up and delivered a crushing blow, smashing the log directly into the cursed mana stone atop its head. The stone shattered, causing the goblin lord excruciating pain and a loss of control. Watching this, Nu urged his apprentice to end its suffering swiftly and painlessly. She agreed, setting it ablaze to finish the job. Whether burning eased its pain, no one could say. Afterward, Nu prayed quietly for the fallen creature, deciding to avoid goblin missions for a while. The danger was simply too great. Instead, more training awaited. How could they expect to succeed if even a single goblin was so formidable? Meanwhile, news reached Lynn's older brother, the prince, about the high-purity cursed mana stone they'd recovered, along with reports of even larger monsters lurking nearby. These new beasts dwarfed the goblin lord by far. The royal court suspected the empire was pulling strings behind these attacks, and they believed the cursed mana stones came from the Holy Mage Kingdom. When asked about Lynn's battle, it turned out she was unharmed and, with only 2 of them, had defeated the dangerous creature. The young princess revealed it had mastered advanced invisibility, so well that even their scouts hadn't spotted it days earlier. No one understood how such a massive beast had been smuggled into their land unnoticed. The goblin population in that area was dwindling, likely due to this predator, and similar events might be unfolding elsewhere. The couple hurried back to report their success to the guild elder, who was thrilled that the dim-witted kid had slain a goblin. Of course, they kept quiet about the massive cursed mana stone atop the beast's head, so the elder still saw it as just a normal monster. Nu had Lin's support the entire time. Without her magic boosting him forward and delivering the finishing blow, victory would have been impossible. But Lin humbly insisted she had only lent a little power, saying she could never match her master's skill and only made things messier. They laughed it off, but the guildmaster was curious about that cursed mana stone on the goblin lord's head, troubled by this unusual discovery. When asked if it really was a goblin, Nu turned to his apprentice and said, "If the master calls it a goblin, then it's a goblin." Finally, the elder asked about the creature's earsonly, then did they realize they'd forgotten to cut them off? The outcome? No reward. Just another mess to clean up. Meanwhile, Prince Ren was briefed on the growing chaos throughout the kingdom. He suspected enemies had infiltrated their lands, with proof found in Nu and Lin's recent goblin lord kill. Ren ordered all 6 legendary warriors to prepare for battle. He blamed himself for not noticing sooner and was shaken by the Empire's ruthless greed for labyrinth resources, willing to destroy their country piece by piece. Back with Nu, he was savouring his adventurer life alongside Lin. Though still uneasy travelling with the self-proclaimed apprentice, having company was a welcome change from his usual solitude. Thanks to his reputation, even without proof of the goblin kill, the guild gave them a small reward, barely enough for a few skewers, but somehow it tasted like victory. Lin was ready to head home, promising to meet her master again tomorrow. Nu thanked Lin once more for giving him a taste of true adventuring. Before she could leave, Lin's older brother arrived personally with a request for Nu. Inviting them both along, he explained they'd need to travel to the mountain city of Tauros at dawn. Ren couldn't disclose much, but hoped for Nu's help. Known as a good-natured man, Nu agreed instantly, sensing this was more than just a simple delivery mission. Ren promised full payment and expenses, so there was nothing to worry about. The next day, they set off on a royal carriage, Nu wide-eyed with excitement at the chance to see new lands. He joked that even without pay, this was a reward in itself, maybe even a trip to a foreign country. Lin, however, worried that her brother might force her master into something uncomfortable. Nu reassured her it was just overthinking. Besides, they would be paid properly, and this was a way to repay their earlier goblin hunting mission. Ren had briefed them on the journey, destination Tauros, where they'd stay for a while. It seemed he anticipated war and wanted to send his sister somewhere safe. After Tauros, they planned to proceed to the neighbouring Holy Mage Kingdom. Lin's older brother's strange behaviour worried her, and she hoped no calamities would befall them along the way. Another escort, Inez, was assigned to protect the young princess. She had direct orders from His Highness. Ren predicted unprecedented troubles ahead. If they heard news of the capital's destruction, Inez was instructed not to return but to stay with Nu and Lin in the foreign land for safety. Though reluctant to leave, Lin accepted this was necessary to protect her peace of mind. The journey ahead promised danger and uncertainty, but together, this unlikely trio would face whatever storms awaited. If you've ever felt the weight of responsibility and the sting of sacrifice, remember, sometimes the bravest act is choosing safety for those you love. Thanks for walking this path with me. Nothing bad will happen if someone else goes with the princess for protection. That someone is Inez, who has received direct orders from the prince. Ren anticipates that unprecedented events are about to unfold. Should she receive news of the capital's destruction, she should not return, but instead accompany Nu and Lin to safety beyond the borders. Even though she is reluctant to leave, her priority is to protect Anhui. Princess Inez had agreed with them, and they stopped to rest by the roadside. That young lady apologized for causing trouble for Nu. Not understanding the hint, he asked, noticing the princess's face was troubled. She was lost in thought about something else. As a shield maiden, she felt responsible not only for protecting the princess, but also this young man. The youth found it strange that she carried no weapon. She activates her shield, a skill that can block nearly anything, which makes Nu marvel. It's no wonder she didn't bring anything. He muses that if danger arises, he would rely on her. As he gazes at her face, memories of the young man who previously fought him resurface. He heard that this boy could take down a dragon, and Inez is said to be on par with him. The difference in their ranks is evident compared to someone like him, who can only defeat goblins. He praises her talent, which reminds Inez of her school days when she discovered her own strength. The adults referred to it as a divine blessing, a rare gift that could become both a sword to sever all and a shield to protect. Depending on the user, this power could even destroy a nation. Fortunately, Back then, she had the strongest mentors guiding her. Slowly, Inez learned to master her abilities under the training of the Holy Shield, Dan. Despite possessing such power, her life has been fraught with challenges. Fearing that her strength might harm others, she isolated herself until she met Nu. She had known that name from her master, who was both a teacher and a father figure to her. Nu has endured rigorous training under the Holy Shield, Dan, who was among the strongest. In those chaotic times, he often wished for men to be there, and that name is etched in Inez's memory. Although she feels envious of the recognition her father bestowed upon another, her feelings deepen upon meeting men and learning more about him. As they continue on their journey, Nu inadvertently spots something moving across the golden rice fields. Lin exclaims that this is indeed frightening, as wherever they tread, the rice turns dark. She uses her skills to attack the moving object, successfully breaking the cloaking barrier over the kingdom. It seems war is on the horizon. Reports flood in of powerful monsters appearing all over the kingdom. The king is furious that the Delias are not joking. They have truly attacked. This is only the beginning of what's to come. The Holy Shield has been mobilized, but due to the overwhelming number of powerful creatures, they are struggling to handle the situation. Meanwhile, Dan is facing several goblin lords as strong as the last one he fought. This battle is incredibly tough, forcing them to hold their ground. Back in the kingdom, Dan, who once taught men swordsmanship, worries if they can reach Lin safely. Returning to Inez, after breaking the barrier, she inadvertently releases a Black Death dragon controlled by a reckless boy from the demon tribe. It nearly kills her, prompting men to appear without a second thought to rescue her, leaving the boy in shock. A fierce battle begins between the two powerful beings, each blow heavy as a ton. Main's defenses hold firm, and they exchange attacks continuously, both unable to overpower the other. Lin wants to assist, but is halted by her guards. Inez recognizes that the danger from this creature does not stem from its physical strength alone. Additionally, protecting the boy is unnecessary since he is a demon. The princess recalls her brother speaking of the demon tribe's ability to manipulate monsters. They are as cruel as the monsters outside. Historical records indicate that 200 years ago, they controlled creatures that nearly led the Holy MRA kingdom to extinction. Hence, the demon tribe has always been hunted by humans, fearing they would bring calamity. The descendants of the demon tribe still exist, and when their kind was wiped out, those who survived bore the duty of revenge against humanity. The Black Death dragon resides in the marshes, but was brought here by that boy to attack their land. Yet, the prince is aiding the enemy. This frustrates Inez, who doesn't want to intervene in May's actions. She wonders if the man understands what he is getting into. She informs the princess that the boy is beyond saving, as the dragon not only breathes poison but also exudes a lethal toxin. Despite not being affected yet, Men believes he can manage until the dragon attacks him, which inadvertently endangers the boy behind him. He fails to dodge and rebounds the attack, but the toxic fumes cause his body to bleed black. This is the most terrifying aspect of the dragon's poison. The signs of losing control begin to surface. Inez realizes she wanted to stop Men because it was a poisonous creature. She can only blame herself for rushing to save someone without fully grasping her duties. Protecting Lin is her primary obligation, and she cannot let Main's fate overshadow that. It turns out their cruelty rivaled even the monsters outside. Records showed that 200 years ago, they manipulated dark beasts, nearly causing the destruction of Mara's holy kingdom. Because of this, the demon tribe was relentlessly hunted by humans, feared as bringers of catastrophe. Some demon descendants still survived after their clan was destroyed, and naturally, those who remained bore the burden of vengeance. The black dragon originally lived in the swamp, but the boy had brought it here, attacking their land. And yet that father figure went to help the enemy. Truly, words fail. This revelation disturbed Inez deeply, making her reluctant to get involved. She wondered if that man understood what was really unfolding around him. She informed the princess that the young man was beyond saving the creature, not only spewed deadly poison, but its very body radiated a lethal toxin. He had not yet succumbed, still hoping to survive, until the poison dragon attacked with its breath. Because of the impact on the boy behind, he didn't dodge but instead pushed the attack back. But then the poison entered, causing his body to bleed black, all over a terrifying sign of poison dragon venom. His body began to lose control. That's why Inez had tried to stop him before this poison was no joke. She blamed herself for rushing in to save him without fully understanding her duty to protect Lin Bok's safety, choosing to risk Nu's life instead. She kept the princess at bay. The creature's cursed aura was strong and spreading toward them. Now only her shield could hold it back, urging Lin Boc to flee. She was the kingdom's last hope. If she fell here, everything would collapse. Nu tried to dispel the cursed aura, but his magic was too weak. Inez silently apologized to her friend for choosing this path. Though she longed to protect him, the princess's life mattered more. Everyone thought Nu was dead from the poison, but he wasn't. Though the toxin had entered his heart, he struggled on, breaking all the black dragon's claws. It was unbelievable in that state, he still wielded his sword. Inez began to understand why Nu's adoptive father always wished to accompany him, because of his absurdly strong will. Nu's initial actions weren't foolish. They reflected the spirit of someone who would sacrifice his life to protect others, no matter who they were. That was the ideal Inez aspired to, yet couldn't reach. In the end, Nu reached his limit and collapsed. The boy's past, saved by Nu, was tragic and orphan with no shelter, imprisoned and treated worse than a dog. There were other children in similar plights, labeled as cursed. All had the power to control dark beasts, which was why they were kept alive, half alive, used for evil deeds. Each day they survived on only one meager ration of leftovers from those living above. In ancient times, this power was meant to control livestock, but over time, it was twisted into dark beast manipulation. Because their ancestors had committed too much bloodshed, their descendants were despised. Even a glance from them was hated. The cruel warden didn't hesitate to strike them down at the slightest provocation. Rollo was still reaching for something he couldn't touch, having already hit the limits of his despair. The boy's past was a sorrowful tale. Once a carefree child, now a lonely orphan trapped in a cruel world. He lived in a dank, dark place, treated worse than a stray dog. Here, he was not alone, there were others, cursed children like him, all possessing the ability to manipulate magical beasts, which was why they were kept alive. Their lives were spent in servitude and misery, forced to use their abilities for vile purposes. They were given only one meal a day, meager scrap from those living above ground. What was once a gift meant to help tend livestock had twisted into a tool of oppression. Generations of their ancestors had brought bloodshed upon the world, and now their descendants bore the weight of that legacy, shunned and despised. Even the mere glance from the overseer could bring punishment. Rollo was the one most often beaten, yet he harbored potential far beyond his peers. Once, he naively asked, "Why do they hit me?" The answer was a brutal lesson, leaving his face marred and forcing him to endure hunger for 3 long days to learn his place. In the time that followed, Rollo had begun to nurture his abilities, learning to read the thoughts of those around him. During a moment of being taken elsewhere, he was met with eyes filled with hatred directed at the innocent children. All the malice of the world seemed to bear down on them. The cruel taunts aimed at Rollo grew sharper, warping his soul. Who among us is truly chosen by fate? Only because of his ancestors' dark legacy did he find himself in such a wretched state. Yet, despite it all, he never dared to rebel, accepting the scorn without ever wishing upon others the same suffering. Then one day, Rollo was called upon for a special purpose to control a black dragon. The overseer deceived him, claiming that capturing the beast would benefit some noble nation. For the first time, Rollo heard of his kind being seen as useful. Sweet words from the overseer began to weave a web of trust around him. He promised that if Rollo complied, he would no longer suffer pointless beatings, and he could enjoy food and clothing like others. The old man promised warmth and safety for all the children here, should Rollo succeed in his mission. Driven by his inherent goodness, Rollo agreed, knowing that failure would mean suffering for everyone. The cunning overseer, aware of Rollo's ability to read minds, had prepared a magical ring to cloud his sinister thoughts. This is how Rollo found himself in a field, facing the kingdom of men as the moment unfolded. At that moment, Rollo was struck by a sudden attack from Lin, throwing him off balance and causing the black dragon to break free. If he were an ordinary person, he would have been dead from that blow. But as a member of the demon race, he survived the initial strike. Panic washed over him as he realized he had failed. Thoughts of the suffering his friends would endure because of him swirled in his mind. The only silver lining now was the chance to escape from his torment. It was a bitter realization that he had not helped anyone, yet he had never wished harm upon another. In a strange twist of fate, he found a sense of luck in this impending death. Just as he resigned himself to his fate, suddenly, Nu appeared out of nowhere to protect him. This was the first time Rollo felt someone standing up for him. He had always longed for a normal life, to enjoy good food and wear beautiful clothes. It seemed warm and comforting, but nothing compared to the feeling of having someone who didn't look down on him, someone who shielded him. Having never properly conversed with anyone, Rollo couldn't warn Nu about the poison. As a result, Nu fell victim to the toxic breath of the black dragon, without even realizing it. Only when dark blood flowed from his body did he realize that the Grim Reaper was calling. Yet, when he saw his younger brother caught in a poisonous mist, he used his own abilities to purify him, allowing Rollo to survive the battle against the black dragon. In his eyes, he was nothing short of a hero, standing up to protect the weak, even as his own consciousness began to fade, but he refused to let go. He fought on relentlessly, pushing his body to its limits. Normally, anyone else would have fallen dead from the moment they were poisoned. Fortunately, he had a high resistance to toxins, which was slowing the poison's effects. His body ceased to bleed as it produced antibodies against the lethal toxin. He even boldly declared, "This is nothing at all," explaining, "To understand this, we must rewind to Nu's childhood." After returning from training school, the boy lived alone in the mountains. Without guidance, he often accidentally consumed poisonous plants. The worst came today. Nu unknowingly ingested a toxin-laced plant, a poison stronger than a venomous dragon's bite. Within minutes, the poison spread through his body. His limbs immediately lost movement, consciousness fading. Desperately, he used low-level healing spells. Perhaps fate wasn't cruel. Nu survived, thanks also to his constant training. Even basic recovery spells proved potent. The next day, the toxin still lingered. Determined, he tried to cleanse himself by drinking water, but relief was minimal. He found the plant's name Black Dragoneer mentioned by his mother before, but he had forgotten its appearance and ate it by mistake last night. Though still weak, Nu somehow trained as usual. That resilience was remarkable, and by the next day, his stomach pain faded, replaced by hunger. So, he set out to find food again, this time wiser avoiding the Black Dragoneer. But fate had other plans. A deadly snake bit him on the buttocks, knocking him out cold. Hours later, he recovered and enjoyed a meal of snake meat. The plant's poison was far stronger than the snake's venom, so Nu survived and realized he was becoming immune to toxins. Confidence surged as he let the venomous snake bite him daily, training his body's resistance. Repeated exposure stopped him from falling unconscious from poison. The venom was instantly neutralized by his antibodies. Suddenly, a thought struck him. Could this help him learn new skills? For a whole year, Nu hunted venomous creatures daily, even foolishly eating the Black Dragoneer again. Still, he survived, only sleeping briefly. Despite all this, no new skills came. After all, who learns powers by torturing themselves with poison? If that worked, people would be mastering soul separation or reincarnation by now. Back in the present, his body adapted to the Black Dragoneer's poison. Sitting up, he mused, maybe he should catch that giant frog for a hot pot. The second duel started, and Nu was brimming with confidence soon. He'd feast on giant frog meat. Meanwhile, the other boy was fine, thanks to healing energy he had received earlier. Nu unleashed his venomous dragons without missing a strike. Rollo watched in awe, seeing that terrifying monster as a colossal threat, but Nu saw just a normal frog. With a few sharp moves, Nu trimmed the Black Dragoneer's nails, then rearranged its jaws, causing it unbearable pain and fury. The frog unleashed its ultimate attack, a deadly gamble, swelling its cheeks fiercely. Nu realized this was a life-or-death strike and decided to meet its effort head-on. As the frog prepared to spit venom, Nu shoved a sword into its mouth, blocking the attack. The pressure exploded the frog's head instantly, leaving the three watchers stunned. Inez wondered what was happening. Wasn't he supposed to be dead? Yet here he was, fighting fiercely. Nu looked at the remains, disappointed only a little meat was left. He thought of taking half the frog for the road, but that plan was dashed. Their elder came over, asking if the boy was okay. Nu nodded, still shocked from witnessing such a supreme battle. Asked if he came alone, Yolo hesitated, afraid to reveal he brought the frog here for fear of punishment. Upon hearing this, Nu understood the frog was a local delicacy. He realized the boy wasn't abandoning the creature but was raising frogs to sell meat in the city. Suddenly, Nu felt guilty for killing the boy's livestock. In the end, the Black Dragoneer was considered livestock, left to graze in fields like cattle. Nu apologized. Promising to make amends 7 without money now, he vowed to repay in the future. Rollo, surprised, told him it wasn't necessary. Their elder asked how they brought the frog here, expecting ropes or chains, but Rollo candidly said he controlled the beast magically. Nu admired that skill, so young yet commanding a giant frog, while he himself nearly died fighting it. Looks like more training was needed. The two brothers chatted, though neither fully understood one another. Nu praised his younger sibling as a genius, born with the rare skill to control magical beasts. Nu, raised in the mountains, didn't even know what a demon tribe was. So when Rollo admitted he was from the demon tribe, Nu scratched his head. He wished he had those power stow command beasts for farming or guarding. Rollo wondered why Nu didn't hate or look down on him, despite reading Nu's mind filled with nonsense and stones. Nu acknowledged Rollo's skills and character were amazing, and that warmed his heart. Simple words, but filled with deep love. Unaware of each other's pasts, Nu just encouraged his brother. When the others ran to check on Nu, they found him unharmed, truly a magical miracle. They knew the poison's danger, yet Nu was untouched. Poor Lin had been crying, fearing death. But Nu knew the secret. Holy energy could neutralize venom and curses. His master had taught him this, though only at a basic level after 40 years of training. Yet Nu was already beyond that. Asked about Rolo, the two girls recognized him as a demon tribe member, feared and hunted like a monster in other lands. But to Nu, he was just a normal boy. He teased Inez with stories about messing up the frog's transport to the city, needing to make up for it. Inez's fearful gaze revealed she saw Rolo as a slave, who only obeyed orders without knowing why. Before arriving at the fields, Rolo had been blindfolded and unaware of his origins. Lin's father struggled to accept this, but seeing Nu's calm attitude, he softened. Lin also began to see Rolo as a fragile boy with nowhere to turn. She pleaded for the boy to join them, but Inez refused because of their strict teachings. The harsh reality weighed heavily on everyone, yet this moment revealed something beautiful: a boy cast out by fate, slowly finding family in the wild, among dangers and bonds forged by hardship. It's a story of survival, trust, and the strange warmth found in the coldest places. If you've ever felt abandoned or powerless, maybe Nu and Rolo's journey speaks to you, a reminder that even in loneliness, we can find strength and unexpected kinship. And if you're lost in your own battles, remember, sometimes the fiercest monsters become the friends who save us. Thanks for sharing this journey with me. The kingdom is a sanctuary forbidden to the demon clan. The mere presence of Rolo spells inevitable trouble for them. Suddenly a new enemy appears, and strangely, Men is still alive. Sticking out his tongue, he licks his lips, sensing the other knows about the toad he defeated. He even asks if that person hired Rolo to transport the creature, then apologizes for ruining the merchandise before confronting him. He claims he doesn't care about the transport itself, he's just a hired hand sent to bring the boy back. Nu believes this man to be good until he suddenly attacks with lightning speed. Luckily, Men reacts just in time to block the blow, infuriating the attacker who hates facing a worthy opponent. Seeing Men as an obstacle, the man demands Nu hand over Rolo, claiming it will earn him money. His employer doesn't care whether he lives or dies, only that the body is returned for a reward. Nu asks why, but the man stays silent, pressing his attack. Indeed, he's fast and powerful, but with Paris backing Nu up, they fend off every strike. Lin Bok, positioned elsewhere, can't see their moves. Inez, sensing the assassin's deadly threat, urges the princess to stay behind her for protection. The masked man's counterstrike breaks his sword. Quickly, he pulls out two knives, slashing relentlessly at the indestructible blade. But Anne doesn't falter. This was only a warm-up. The next assault catches Nu off guard with terrifying speed. Though he blocks the stab, the force is immense, pushing the two brothers back. He can't believe this young man's dagger can generate such overwhelming power, perhaps heavier than the bull from before in the dungeon. Yet, after this, the enemy's weapon shatters. Feeling something strange, he charges again. The assassin's strike speed is blinding, forcing Nu to rely purely on instinct to defend. Behind him, Rolo stands ready. If this continues, exhaustion is certain. The enemy relentlessly questions why Men hasn't died, revealing he has unleashed many assassin techniques. From afar, Lin Bok is stunned. These attacks create shockwaves so vast, even approaching is nearly impossible. Inez, understanding the princess's peril, erects a barrier before them for safety. Thankfully, she notices Nu faltering. Charging in now would be suicide. This knowledgeable woman reveals the man is none other than Jiadu, a former S-rank adventurer and deadly threat. Previously, during a council with the kingdom's leaders, she mentioned the case involving him. Everyone here knows Jiadu well. He is the target that must be eradicated. The 6 strongest advised their disciples to avoid this man, having abandoned the hunt fearing more deaths. Since childhood, Jiadu was a prodigy, earning the title Dragon Slayer at just 13. His fame spread beyond borders, but tragically, he never used his talents for good. The cruelest crime he committed was slaughtering 326 innocents. Despite the guild's every effort, they failed to subdue this monster in human form. To Jiadu, money was all that mattered. For the right price, he could be hired for anything. The most horrifying act after being hunted was annihilating an entire country. Yet here Nu stands, still battling this villain, proving his strength rivals that of an S-rank adventurer. Those who tried to capture Jiadu were almost always crushed by him. So, even though the bounty on his head is sky high, the stakes are deadly. This confrontation is not just a fight, it's a clash of legends, where survival hinges on more than just power. It's a test of spirit, resolve, and heart. Will Nu's courage turn the tide, or will the shadow of Jiadu's darkness consume them all? In Jiadu's mind, money is king, and loyalty is bought with gold. But can cold ambition ever conquer the warmth of hope? Watching this battle unfold, we are reminded that even in a world scarred by cruelty, there are sparks of light fighters who refuse to bow. Nu's stand against this merciless force is more than survival. It's a beacon for those lost in the darkness. And if you've ever felt powerless like him, take a breath and ask yourself, where does your true strength lie? With the intention of creating even more chaos, he sought to test the limits of his opponents, eager to see how many attacks they could withstand. Just as predicted, Nu, who needed to protect his younger ally, could not absorb every blow, prompting him to shield Lin and Inez with his own body. Witnessing this heartbreaking scene, one could feel the weight of impending doom. Deep down, she yearned to assist him, but the responsibility of safeguarding the princess was too great. This conflict held her back, but remembering Nu's tireless efforts, she requested permission from the princess to join the fight. Once granted, she quickly devised a shield to protect herself, while launching a counterattack against Jarb. The barrier Inez created absorbed the damage from the assassin's strikes, transforming into a weapon of its own. However, his speed was overwhelming. If things continued this way, the situation would remain unchanged. Both Nu and Inez understood this grim reality, so she urged him to do something while she focused on defense. Just ahead, Nu chased after birds flying faster than the assassin's sword, formulating a plan as he recalled the frog's claws from earlier. With a signal from Lin, he aimed to strike the birds, using his enhanced strength to throw rocks with precision. With every throw aimed at the flying blades, the number of weapons drastically decreased. Seeing this, Jarb instinctively approached Inez for a sneak attack, but Nu reacted just in time. His astonishment was palpable when he realized that she could block his attack, shattering even the toughest material. As a result, he decided not to press his luck, fearing greater losses. For now, he would retreat, but not without inquiring if Nu would return another day. Nu asked if he planned to come back, to which he replied that he intended to visit the capital for a grand event, but with his weapons destroyed, he doubted he could participate. Inez, quick to inquire further, learned that a large battle was currently taking place there. As Nu bid farewell, Jarb left, labeling him a peculiar figure. Having encountered many people, none had been quite like him. Jarb congratulated Rollo for surviving, knowing that if captured, death awaited him. Meanwhile, he was bound to make a fortune. Jarb considered trying one more time, but Nu's resilience thwarted him, prompting his retreat in a plume of dark smoke. With the confrontation concluded, the more pressing issue arose when Jarb revealed that something was amiss in their capital. Though they couldn't trust the words of a dangerous man, Lin felt a sense of dread. They hadn't travelled far yet, so she suggested they return. Rollo, suddenly frightened, warned them against going back, recalling tales of something far more terrifying than the black dragon lurking nearby. This creature heralded the city's doom, which filled Rollo with fear. Lin quickly grasped the seriousness of the situation and urged a return to the city before it was too late. Inez, aware of the ongoing war, halted their progress, citing a royal decree from the prince. Rollo, being the closest relative to her brother, had a sense of the unfolding crisis. She expressed a desire to escape, knowing she could flee, but what would that accomplish while others fought to protect the kingdom? Comparing her plight with Rollo's, who had lost her homeland and been enslaved, Inez understood the gravity of her situation. She could escape, but at what cost? Losing one's roots rendered survival meaningless. Inez sympathized, agreeing to stay as long as the princess remained by her side. Nu inquired whether Rollo would join him, as the threat would return. She consented, feeling safe beside her brother, and expressed regret for her past actions, which others deemed wrong. However, her motivations were solely to protect her kin. Hearing this, he forgave her, yet Lin felt embarrassed, questioning why he could be so forgiving. In that moment, Nu's thoughts drifted to the frog, pondering its fate. However, that could wait for another time. On their journey back, this student felt a sense of peace, knowing he had defeated the black dragon and matched the legendary Jarb. Perhaps he could change the tides of battle. With a light-hearted spirit, he felt their chances had increased significantly. It seemed impossible to continue, and Inez asked what was going on, but all the other side could say was that a fierce battle was raging there. As they considered retreating, Nu urged, "Let's meet again," a hint of hope and challenge. Jabu called him a strange man. He'd met many, but no one quite like this. Meanwhile, Rollo was congratulated for surviving. Being taken back would surely mean death. As for himself, he planned to earn a fortune. Gabu even tried one last attack, but Nu easily countered, then vanished in a swirl of dark smoke using his unique skills. The incident seemed closed, but a heavier weight settled the news from Jabu that their capital was in chaos. Though it was hard to trust a dangerous man's words, Lin Bok felt deep worry. They hadn't gotten far, and the situation demanded urgent action. As they debated returning, Rollo suddenly felt a chill. He realized everyone came from the capital and warned against going back. He'd heard whispers about a monstrous, terrifying creature, far worse than the Black Dragona harbinger of the city's doom. Fear gripped him, and Linbok quickly grasped the gravity, urging a swift return before it was too late. Inez, knowing about the raging war, stopped them, reminding them of the prince's orders. She, as the closest to her brother, half understood his plan. He wanted her to lead them to exile. Linbok thought, even if they escaped, what could they do next? While others fought desperately to protect their small kingdom, Rollo's story was a painful contrast. Sibling lost his home and became a slave. Survival without roots felt meaningless. Inez sympathized and reluctantly agreed, pleading with the princess not to abandon her. Nu asked if his little sister would come along, warning the enemy would return. She agreed, trusting her brother's goodness would keep her safe. Nu apologized for the trouble he caused, but insisted his actions were to save others in their clan. Upon hearing this, his companion forgave him, making Linbok feel embarrassed and wonder why her master was so merciful. Min's mind drifted to that monstrous frog wanting to devour him, though he decided to postpone that thought. On the way back, the young disciple felt more at ease. With Nu there, who had defeated the Black Dragon and stood even with the legendary Jabu, their side gained 50% more hope. Inez urged the horses to speed up, eager to return in time. Meanwhile, at the capital, everything lay in ruins. Ren personally surveyed the devastation and felt heartbreak, though thankfully the people had evacuated and were under the protection of the Six Saints. They struggled fiercely to repel the enemy's assault. However, their secret forces found no trace of the attackers. Ren was certain the battle was far from over, their forces were exhausted, and a stronger strike was coming soon. Trying to predict the enemy's approach, Ren looked up and saw only a shadow, the creature soaring above the clouds. He immediately broke the invisibility spell, revealing the true form, not just any black dragon, but a demon dragon. Rollo's fears were confirmed. The capital was doomed. Flashback to Nu's childhood. His father told him tales of a heroic dragon slayer who defeated the mighty evil dragon, the top predator in the food chain. The hero used dragon parts to forge weapons and potions, bringing prosperity and earning eternal praise. But Nu's father warned it wasn't a simple feat. Dragons lived for thousands of years. Their scales were tougher than any forged metal. A flick of their tail could cause landslides. Long ago, this continent was destroyed by dragons. Someone like Nu would be devoured in an instant. Back in the present, men suddenly sensed an ominous presence. Linbok couldn't see it yet, but moments later, the shadow of the demon dragon Lumida catastrophe heading straight for their kingdom. The villagers froze, knowing escape was futile. The dragon's jet-black, beautiful yet terrifying body promised unimaginable destruction. Ren wondered if the Empire's forces understood what they'd unleashed. Controlling a demon dragon meant they held dark secrets. According to records, it had only been 150 years since this beast last awoke. Now, it hovered above them, and with a single wing beat, it obliterated everything below. The prince ordered an immediate evacuation. Fighting was useless against such a creature. No one was to remain in the capital. The Six Saints sensed the dire situation. It felt like the Dark Ages when dragons ravaged the land. Each member was busy confronting monsters. The king watched as the dragon refused to leave, commanding Russ to evacuate the people while he stayed to handle pressing matters. Outside, Inez witnessed her homeland facing a disaster of apocalyptic scale, her heart aching. Linbok felt even worse, powerless to help. The captain warned that anything the demon dragon passed through would be destroyed. The city was evacuating, but even returning would be futile. Inez feared her brother and father would sacrifice themselves as shields. If it were her father 30 years ago, perhaps he could fight the evil dragon. She silently prayed for their swift escape. Men stood nearby. Fascinated, it was the first time he'd seen a dragon speak so casually, leaving the others speechless. They had just battled the black dragon, yet he claimed to have never seen a dragon before. A strange sibling dynamic. Inez wanted to rush to the city to save her family, but Nu reminded her of their fight with goblins. She had pushed him away at high speed then. He suggested repeating that move, shooting straight to the demon dragon to take its head off. Linbok's eyes widened, confused why her master made such a reckless request. The reason was simple: she had been cared for by her father and brother, and was now entrusted with this sword. It was time to repay that kindness. This demon dragon hides secrets unknown to other nations. Records say it's only been 150 years since its last hibernation, and now it's awake, looming right above them. One powerful wing beat alone has devastated the entire area below. The prince orders an evacuation. Fighting is pointless against such a beast. He demands no one stays behind. The Holy Continent senses danger, recalling the Dark Ages when dragons ravaged the lands. Every member is occupied battling monsters. The king watches the dragon, unwilling to leave, and instructs Russ to evacuate the city's people, while he himself must attend to urgent matters. Outside, Inez witnesses her homeland facing a disaster of apocalyptic scale. Lin Bok's anger boils over, frustrated by their helplessness. Her guard warns that anywhere the dragon passes will be utterly destroyed. The city is evacuating, and even if they return, there's nothing they can do. She knows if it's up to her brother and father, they'll stand as shields. If only her father from 30 years ago were here, maybe he'd stand a chance. She can only pray her loved ones escape safely. Men stands nearby, amused this is the first time he's ever encountered a dragon that talks so casually. The others are speechless. They'd just fought a black dragon, yet he claims he's never really seen a dragon before. Quite the character. Her brother and father remain in the city, wanting to rush in and help. Nu recalls the time they fought the goblin. She pushed him far away at high speed. Now, repeating that move to launch him straight at the dragon's head sounds perfect. Lin Bok's eyes widen, baffled by the master's strange request. The reason to save the city is simple: she's been cared for by her father and brother, and now it's time to repay that debt. If all they do is run away, he can handle it easily. These words make her realize she was wrong to think they wouldn't be fast enough. Usually, that spell can't be used on humans, but since they tried once before, there's less worry now. The king slowly approaches the dragon, recalling the Empire's threats to crush the small kingdom. Yet he refuses to hand over the labyrinth. With no escape, they guard too many untold secrets, like the unbreakable celestial sword. If the villains gain access to those powerful resources, the consequences could be catastrophic. The Dark Dragon Empire descended upon the capital, their purpose clear: claim the labyrinth, and nothing else mattered. He blamed himself for walking into their trap, negotiating with these fiends. From above, the weary father recalled Linbo's image, his daughter feeling a flicker of relief that she had escaped unharmed. The stage was set for a deadly showdown with the Dark Dragon. Perhaps, he thought, he was truly meant to be an adventurer, rather than letting innocent lives suffer. Though unable to undo his mistakes, he vowed to use his own life to stall the beast, buying precious moments for everyone to flee. Meanwhile, Ines devised a precise and powerful spell, a long conduit crafted from shields, to stand before them. Guiding its direction, Linbo unleashed his magic at full force, pushing the threat back. Watching her chant countless enhancement spells, Nu innocently asked how this differed from before. The shockwaves and pressure are far stronger today, she explained, urging her teacher to hold on. Before he could respond, the blast sent him hurtling back to the capital, magic dissipating into thin air like smoke, an awe-inspiring sight that chilled Rolo to the bone. The dragon now faced the king, preparing to unleash a fiery breath. The pressure alone was overwhelming. Below, the king's troops trembled, witnessing the very technique that had scorched the continent for centuries, known as the Dark Dragon's breath. Once unleashed, death was inevitable. The king, seeing no chance to counterattack, smiled quietly. He resolved to stand firm, fulfilling his duty to the end. Beyond the azure sword gifted to Nu, he still wielded a demonic Bladia final gambit to let the dragon taste humanity's will. This was his ultimate strike, a life-for-life sacrifice, pouring every ounce of power into a single decisive blow. The 6 saints watched helplessly, unsure how to intervene. As the forces clashed, suddenly the old man charged, delivering a fierce kick that deflected the dragon's destructive spark. The beast faltered, redirected its attack away. The king stood frozen, bewildered by the sudden turn. Witnesses too were stunned by Nu's lightning-fast arrival. Her move had struck the dragon to the ground. Strangely, the creature showed awareness, its mud-streaked body burning with indignation, glaring at men. To the dragon, strength ruled all, weakness was submission. Yet, here was tiny Nu, defying its might. The overwhelming force terrified him, the dragon's roar echoing like a wild beast, swinging its tail fiercely. Each strike was met with men's Paris skill, knocking blows back effortlessly. After 2 fierce exchanges, men thought he was done for, hit on the first attack and stunned. How did those girls aim so true, striking the dragon's head? Recalling the moment, he realized his senses were dulled, his speed surpassing sound itself. As he regained focus, he felt himself spinning uncontrollably, like caught in a whirlwind. To steady himself, he amplified his legs, racing at the speed of sound to maintain balance. Leaning into the force, he braced for the next strike, ready to hold his ground, fueled by sheer will and the hope that even in chaos, a flicker of light could guide them all. Men effortlessly leapt over the fortress wall, initially planning to land below, but the lingering force propelled him straight towards the dragon. Seizing the moment, Nu struck with the invincible sword. The dragon demon was slammed down twice, yet Mayneck injury slowly healed, though the pain was intense. Next time, he thought, he must tell Lin Bok to ease up on the power. Looking up at the sky, he saw the battlefield anew. That dragon's fiery breath was stunning. Men realized this beast wasn't quite like his father's tales, it was simpler, just a massive creature. Now, fueled by the will to protect what truly mattered, and bolstered by the dragon's 2 setbacks, men felt a flicker of confidence. The remaining trio had just arrived at the royal capital, witnessing the devastation the dragon had wrought, a heartbreaking sight. Rollo warned his sisters to be cautious, for besides the evil dragons, dangerous monsters lurked here. They narrowly avoided a strike, raising their shields just in time. He urged them not to stray, as the foes ahead were perilous goblins, similar to the ones Nu defeated before. Though smaller now, each had a glowing gem atop their heads. Linbo C's worry simmered. She didn't know what to do next. If their master were here, he'd swing his sword without hesitation. So, inspired, Lin Bok encouraged them. They're just goblins, no need to fear. Even Nu agreed. Compared to the flying black lizard, these were mere mosquitoes. The battle commenced, but magic had no effect. Inessa's shield helped, but this wouldn't hold much longer. Lolo then unleashed his demonic powers, freezing the goblins in place. Lin Bok summoned an icy chill that pierced to the bone, freezing everything solid. Her sister transformed her shield into a sword and finished them off decisively, truly worthy of holding 2 titles at once. Credit went to Rollo for giving them this chance. Though scared, she mustered all her courage to support Lin Bok. Feeling this, Lin Bok silently thanked her companions. Meanwhile, the black dragon seethed in silence, furious at being pushed back repeatedly by Nu. Its claws, thought invincible, were slowly chipping against the sword. How could a mere human wound it so? Down below, Dan Huyen admired his prized blade, just as legendary as the tales promised. Confidence soared on both sides. The dragon sensed the tide turning. Normal attacks wouldn't suffice. It soared high, preparing a devastating heavenly destruction strike with its sacred dragon breath. The crowd could only pray. As it descended, Nu countered with Paris, reflecting the full force. The attack blasted skyward, exploding with thunderous power, leaving the dragon wide-eyed in shock. How could the breath of a dragon demon, known to obliterate continents, be reflected? Luckily, the blast missed the dragon. Rollo translated the dragon's fury, acknowledged Main's strength, but couldn't tolerate being disrespected by such a small creature. The dragon's pride as apex predator was sky-high, yet it was humiliated by an ant-like being. The mental blow was heavier than any physical wound. The dragon, maddened, lowered itself to scrutinize its opponent, lunging again only to be struck and lose a fang. Its mind steadied, now fixated on Nu. Rollo sensed the dragon was tamed, or rather, had surrendered to this man. It even assumed a submissive posture. How cruel. Yet, no one noticed the sudden eerie silence enveloping the battlefield. Nu, puzzled, caught sight of the shining fang and recalled his father's words about rare materials. Its mind began to clear, and it fixed its gaze upon Rollo, sensing a change in the air. The dragon, once fierce, now appeared subdued, perhaps even submissive to the man before it, striking a pose of surrender. Little did they know, the atmosphere around them fell into an eerie silence. Rollo, oblivious to the tension, caught sight of the dragon's gleaming tooth and recalled his father's words. Dragon materials were treasures capable of enriching a nation. The man who slays a dragon would be hailed as a hero. He pondered whether to strike again, but hesitated, feeling pity. Perhaps heroism was beyond his reach now. After this encounter, the dragon harbored no more intentions of battle. The others rushed in to celebrate their improbable victory over evil. Surprisingly, the dragon remained unscathed, leaving the trio in disbelief. They turned to praise Rollo, crediting him for the dragon's newfound tranquility and lack of aggression. Rollo, utterly confused, felt he hadn't done anything worthy of such admiration. Yet, it made sense. The dragon had submitted, but no one acknowledged this truth. Rollo feared the 2 girls would despise him, so he kept silent. He then asked Rollo if he could guide the dragon back to its home. This request posed a dilemma. It was a threat to their nation, and they feared the day the black dragon might return. Inez swiftly spoke up, but Rollo's perspective differed. He understood that eliminating the dragon was necessary, yet his conscience couldn't allow it. Though he longed for heroism, Lin's mind was heavy with doubt. Having previously requested mercy for Rollo, now seeking it for the dragon felt hypocritical. He realized this was a selfish desire. However, Princess Nu confidently agreed without hesitation, deeply trusting her master, especially since she was the one who had defeated the dragon. They turned to Rollo, asking him to communicate with the dragon and guide it home. The young boy hesitated, uncertain about this colossal being's response. Nu sensed his hesitation and whispered encouragement, assuring him the girls wouldn't bear any ill will. Rollo, inspired by the kindness of others, decided to approach the dragon after its defeat. Having acknowledged Rollo as its master, the dragon agreed to fulfill his requests. The imposing figure of the black dragon regarded Rollo with admiration. Nu instructed Rollo to remind the dragon not to harm humans and to return to its homeland. Through a mental connection, The dragon grasped this command from Rollo. As it prepared to leave, it scrutinized its new master one last time before taking flight, unleashing a mighty roar that echoed, marking the end of their battle. But that was only what they believed. In the shadows, the Empire's forces had taken aim, and were more than satisfied with their cunning plan, viewing the dragon merely as a tool to exploit, no different from a mere animal. The royal capital has turned into a wasteland. But with the damage done, it's enough for him to continue the war. He summoned countless warriors, all armed to the teeth with modern weaponry. This plan was meticulously crafted and quite costly. First, they would awaken the Calamity Dragon, stirring chaos in the kingdom. Next, an army equipped with magical weapons would strike again. Moreover, they possessed 3 devices to create a mobile barrier and 4 types of weapons capable of emitting massive magical power. Victory seemed within reach. At that moment, a general from the Empire named Landeos stepped forward and requested the king to cease hostilities, recognizing that this battle brought no benefit. However, the king refused to listen, believing himself to be the strongest with his current magical mastery, and sought to show the world this by annihilating the GL kingdom as an example. He wanted to weave a tale of heroism, portraying himself as the protector against the evil dragon. Meanwhile, the 4 heroes, upon witnessing the dragon being shot, felt sympathy and rushed to assist. This action allowed Linbox to uncover the enemy's new movements, with thousands of soldiers preparing to march towards them. The Emperor also realized that the princesses were still alive, and the biggest threat to them was Inez, one of the legendary figures known throughout the land. Unfortunately, men had no reputation, so he was not seen as a significant danger. Immediately, they launched magical cannon fire to eliminate a legend. With this artillery, he was confident he could take down Inez in one blow. They could feel the energy gathering, aimed directly at them. Linbox was put at the back with Quem Rollo, but the cannon fire surged too quickly, leaving Inez unable to conjure a barrier in time. Fortunately, Nu, still holding her reputation, managed to deflect that attack. The opposing side was baffled, believing the last strike had malfunctioned. After all, who could withstand such power? Men stood above, sensing the danger of the situation below, where countless soldiers were assembled. The others began to enlighten him on the impending threat, with 100,000 troops intent on annihilating their kingdom. With their current forces, resistance was impossible. Therefore, if they could hold them here, it would be a boon. Nu thought about fleeing, but the others made the unilateral decision to fight. More magical cannon fire was unleashed in great numbers, yet it was weaker than the first. Inez managed to block it all. Witnessing this, the Emperor seethed in frustration, but had to retreat to avoid further disaster. His mountainous brother realized this would not end well, and began devising a plan to divert attention to buy time. Though not skilled in combat, he was confident in his ability to escape. Thus, he recalled a childhood memory of gathering bee larvae and provoking a swarm of bees, resulting in a frantic escape, much like how he would now treat the enemy below. He viewed the soldiers below as a hive of bees, planning to move around erratically to confuse them. Once they grew tired, they would retreat. Upon hearing this, Linbox understood and offered to assist. He thought she would cast a strengthening spell, but instead, Linbox unleashed a shockwave, hurling men straight into the enemy's formation, unprepared. Instantly, Nu fell into a state of unconsciousness. Thankfully, she had activated her physical enhancement early on, allowing the young man to soar into the sky, continuing to play the role of the brother who defied thousands of challenges, exploding the enemy's cannon fire. With newfound confidence, he landed directly into the Imperial forces, appearing incredibly dangerous. Yet he claimed he was merely running, not attacking, as he had demonstrated over the years. Nu could repel 1,000 swords simultaneously, and the soldiers were still trying to comprehend what was happening when their shields and weapons were blown away. His aim was to hold them back, allowing the 3 behind to escape, then turn around to clear out the enemy formation. Watching this scene, the Emperor stood agape, coincidentally finding men landing right beside him, with the pile of weapons that had been hurled into the air now raining down, injuring many of his soldiers. The lighter injuries saw swords embedding in limbs, while the heavier ones were knocked out entirely. The king himself was struck but survived, terrified enough to nearly lose control. Just like that, all his forces were swept away. Shields and weapons lay in ruins, and more importantly, this devastation was caused by a single individual. Finally, Nu stopped in front of him to catch his breath. Being tired, he merely gazed at the opposing emperor, who misinterpreted his stare as an intention to kill, filling him with dread, and he imagined the worst fate awaiting him at men's hands. Thus, he transitioned into a defensive mode, confident in his high-end black armor, yet Nu had no intention of targeting him. Meanwhile, the 10,000 elite troops, fully armed, had been defeated. He wondered who Nu was to accomplish such feats, How could a heavy machine be sent flying like that? This barrier could withstand the breath of the Calamity Dragon, yet it reduced to mere fragments by a single person. The Emperor knew he had lost everything after this battle. After sweeping the battlefield, Nu returned to the indestructible Than Huayn Thit. He recognized this sword, for it was the most valuable item from the labyrinth. The chaos today stemmed from his desire to possess this sword. Having seen it at V, to the Empire, this was an unknown artifact. He struggled to maintain his composure to think clearly. The Than Huayn Thit was extremely heavy, requiring 2 hands to wield, yet this guy could wield it with 1 hand and run like the wind. Truly a menace. Nu smiled with satisfaction, having completed his mission of holding the enemy back, thinking that this man was preparing to attack him. Men's decision not to kill him at first was to allow himself to experience hell, watching thousands of elite soldiers defeated in under 5 minutes. It was truly shocking, causing the Emperor to soil himself, barely managing to stand and retreat. Had he stayed, Nu would have been at a loss for how to deal with him. In the eyes of the soldiers, this young man seemed like a demon emerging from hell, spreading terror among them. After that clash, I bet the entire lot was left paralyzed with fear. Let's rewind to earlier when Nu began his onslaught, sweeping away his enemies. In his mind at that moment, he focused solely on disarming the enemy, not realizing that the Emperor was right beside him. The defeated foe inquired who Nu was, marveling at how massive machines were hurled skyward. Even barriers that could block the dragon demon's breath shattered into fragments. Weapons capable of burning the dragon's scales were powerless against a single man. He knew he'd lost everything after this battle. Nu swept the battlefield clean, then returned to Than Huayn. The unbreakable sword recognized instantly was the crown jewel of the labyrinth. The old man's quest for that sword led to today's chaos. For the Empire, this sword was an unprecedented anomaly. He tried to stay calm, analyzing carefully. Than Huayn's sword was heavy, wielded with both hands, yet the man below wielded it single-handedly, moving like the wind a true demon. Nu laughed heartily, satisfied with completing his mission to hold the enemy back. Why men hadn't killed him immediately was to endure hell firsthand, watching tens of thousands of elite soldiers fall in under 5 minutes of brutal revelation. This spectacle would frighten any emperor to the core. Fortunately, men stood and fled home. Staying would mean an impossible dilemma. To the soldiers, this young man was a hellspawn, a demon sowing terror. After this feat, the entire battalion was petrified. Flashing back, as Nu unleashed his relentless assault, his mind focused solely on obliterating enemy weapons, unaware the Emperor stood right there. Conversely, the Emperor trembled, terrified when men suddenly teleported close. Nu wondered why the man dressed so conspicuously amid war. At that moment, capturing the Emperor would have ended everything. But Men, a mountain man at heart, assumed he was just an old general. Ignoring this, he pressed on, blasting everything before him. This unleashed a sky of flying weapons. Nu didn't want the soldiers to collect arms to fight back, but their minds had already given up. How could one man send thousands of swords soaring? This young warrior struck with unshakable certainty, dodging and weaving. Spotting the man in golden armor still standing, Nu's curiosity stirred. His heart, kind as ever, thought this must be a lonely elder, and considered advising him to retreat. The opponent panicked, fearing death. Nu ran back and forth, breathless, wanting to reassure the old man but was too exhausted to speak. So he forced a smile to calm him, though his sly expression only scared the Emperor more. As the old man turned to leave, Men hit his limit from overexertion. Seeing this, the enemy soldiers considered scavenging, but were swiftly taken down by a holy power shot. Nu, knowing this skill well, was relieved. Zub had also arrived to back him up after. Text ends abruptly here. Upon seeing our ally single-handedly wipe out nearly an entire army, shock spread among us. Our teacher had arrived too, yet he failed to recognize me. He expressed his gratitude and promised to handle the aftermath. As a member of the Holy Order, he felt unworthy if he couldn't clean up the mess. Watching his magnificent skill reminded me of my own past aspirations to learn such magica memory of Sen and Oken. High above, I glanced down, worried about how fiercely Sen was battling the enemies. At the very least, we needed some of them alive to gather useful information. Immediately, the old sorcerer used a binding spell to capture a few hapless foes for interrogation. The infantry charged in to mop up the remaining soldiers. Despite their words, these seasoned warriors showed no mercy. Yet, as a missionary, Sen aimed to save every wounded soul. Seeing my teachers arrive filled me with joy. I never expected to reunite with them here. From a distance, the remaining members of the Holy Order, Mian and Cario, recognized me at first glance after so many years apart. Lin, BX, and the others soon followed, ready to assist me. The little princess was worried, having seen her mentor exert himself to the brink of bloodshed. He assured her it was nothing more than a bit of hunger. The captured soldiers divulged everything, including information about the Demon King and his army of monsters, stating they had no further combat capabilities. The only regret was that the Emperor had escaped. Oken was astonished that the old man dared to confront us. Perhaps he felt secure in his armaments. I recalled seeing an elder in golden armor, and Oken confirmed that such armor was indeed top tier, even fit for a horse, and no wonder he fled so swiftly. If he crossed the border, it would be a disaster. One day, when he recovered, he would surely seek vengeance. They wished for something that could fly, hoping to catch up with him. Suddenly, I remembered the beast I had tamed, realizing it was still alive and could be of use. I approached the calamity of a Demon King. This was the first time they had come so close to it. The elders knew that with the Demon King's speed, it might just be enough. The crucial question remained: who could assure us it would obey? Sen used his recovery magic to heal the wounds of the dragon, praising me for having grown stronger. Oken was equally stunned, realizing this young man was once deemed useless, barely able to wield a simple skill. He expressed surprise at meeting us, and even complimented the old man for his longevity, joking that he expected to enjoy life for another 100 years. Returning to the matter of the Demon King, Oken inquired whether I was sure it wouldn't betray us. "He's logged out," said the young man, confidence radiating from him, believing he had Rollo by his side. But the dragon wasn't obedient. It didn't heed his brother's words. When Ken asked if he felt assured, he shook his head, leaving the old man pale. Meanwhile, the teacher had completed his task, and Rollo was there, fully restored, limbs intact. Truly a pinnacle of power. Rollo even called the little dragon, which roared loudly, not waiting for the boy to explain. It was clear he wanted to go chase down those ungrateful fools. This was the roar of rage, a thought conveyed by the dragon wanting to give orders, leaving the old teachers stunned. Yet, Nu turned to praise his little brother's talent. He explained that the dragon viewed him as its master. But before he could finish, the black dragon interrupted, eager to pursue the Lin Empire. BX and Ines insisted on joining, wanting to stay by Rollo's side because he was the only one who could communicate with the little dragon. Nu thought he would join as well, unaware that this guy was terrified of height sweat beading on his forehead. He worried that if he stayed behind, his brother would feel lonely. Currently, Nu was the one Rollo trusted most. Teacher Sin and Teacher Cario also decided to join to lend support. So far, the 6 saints hadn't achieved anything significant, so they had to send a few people to restore their honor. When they met the old teacher, the rogue, Nu reminisced about the lessons he taught. With his wide area invisibility skill, he could help the dragon hide, making an attack on the Empire safer. Oken wanted to contribute, but he had to stay back to deal with the captured soldiers. The king arrived, stating he would join them as it was vital to have someone from the royal family to negotiate if necessary. He was relieved to see his daughter safe. Ines knelt, apologizing to the prince for not fulfilling her duty. Naturally, Duyen didn't blame her. Bringing Nu back was what kept the kingdom safe. The king entrusted all decision-making to his son, and Nu also apologized, acknowledging how much their country depended on him. At this point, he recognized the old man as the king. Truly, it was a surprise. Rollo then summoned the Dragon of Calamity to start their journey toward the Empire. The old men regretted not recognizing Nu sooner. They realized they had no ground to stand on from the beginning. Yet, they had once considered taking Nu in, but now, he was the one who needed to learn more. They saw him as a hero from a fairy tale. When these two arrived, they were met with the sight of the enemy's weapons raining down from the sky. At first, they thought it was a dream. Who could achieve such a feat? Sheech said he had been enlightened about his own naivety and would need to train anew. Still, after witnessing that young man grow, the 6 saints felt joy. When these two arrived, their eyes were immediately met with a sky flooded by enemy weapons. At first, they thought it was a dream. How could anyone possibly wield such power? Sheech admitted he had been naive and vowed to train harder. After witnessing that young man's growth, Lukethan felt a deep joy. Finally, after relentless effort, success was within reach. Now, the Marlong disaster soared above the clouds for better observation, but the Emperor was nowhere to be found. The worst fear? He might have already returned to the capital. Before them lay the RH bridge, an entry point to the Empire that had been fiercely defended. Retreat meant losing everything, so Ren insisted on pressing forward. Suddenly, Lin BAC spotted someone sprinting exactly the person they needed to capture for leverage. The invisibility cloak was still effective, yet Cairo feared getting too close would reveal them. Lin Back understood this was Wara war that demanded capturing the Emperor, no matter the cost. Determined, they steeled themselves, unaware of the perils ahead. Then, Ines spoke up, asking His Highness for permission to attack. It had been a long time since she made such a request, signaling her burning anger. She had sworn to shield the capital, but felt powerless. The two brothers agreed to let Inez dismantle the enemy's defenses. She summoned a sword that sliced through the Empire's advanced war machines. If she was going to fight, it had to be all or nothing. Only after toppling several small fortresses did she feel satisfied. Witnessing everyone's resolve, Lin-Bak's spirit soared. Everyone present wielded unimaginable strength, especially Nu and the Ma-Long disaster, so there was no cause for worry. Meanwhile, Men was unconscious, paralyzed by his fear of heights, staring blankly at the sky, a tragicomic scene. The Emperor, having fled and barely holding himself together, finally reached the safety of the Empire, panting like a frightened beast despite riding a horse. This land was rapidly advancing in science and technology, explaining his arrogance in crushing smaller nations. Even the Lodi territory under his rule had modernized, shedding its old-world charm. Ascending to the highest tower burdened by shame, the Emperor's researchers were shocked to see their ruler covered in filth. They asked what had happened, but he remained silent, humiliated by his defeat against a mere mortal. He blamed his useless troops despite their cutting-edge gear, barely processing his own words before sensing a new threat. The Ma-Long disaster was heading straight for them, seething with rage. He knew this all too well, but wondered how the dragon could survive such brutal injuries. Suddenly, a thought struck him. In the neighboring kingdom, there was a healer more skilled than anyone else. If anyone could save the dragon, it was her. Yet commanding such a creature was another matter, reserved only for the demon clan. So, he asked about the demon manipulator's whereabouts. His subordinate reported that after delivering the dragon to the kingdom, the manipulator had already left. Furious, the Emperor scolded his men for failing to stop him. Now, if that Ma-Long attacked here, all would be lost. Still, he couldn't blame them entirely after all. It was his special orders granting General Russ exceptional treatment. Once again, a subordinate urged calm, but the Emperor was far from composed. Listening to him, despite his desperate desire to act, he was ignored and humiliated, a truly pitiful sight. After calming down, this old man aimed to unleash the prototype of a devastating weapon, said to be stronger than anything else. But since it was still experimental, there was fear it might cause uncontrollable damage. 3 scientists tried to warn him, saying its overwhelming power was impossible to regulate precisely. The Emperor dismissed them as fools, blind to the looming disaster. Better to let the city suffer than to lose to the demon dragon and the kingdom's forces. Without hesitation, he struck down a disobedient subordinate. The other 2 insisted on following their own plans. Delius simply wanted to fire once because that single shot was enough to destroy the black dragon. Moreover, if aiming was impossible, just add a magic tracking feature to the cannon. Fao realized the problem. They activated the prototype of the destruction machine, very different from the smaller ones men had destroyed earlier. This cannon was colossal in size, and the Emperor was confident it would obliterate any obstacle. To power it, the entire country's energy was required. Delius eagerly anticipated this brilliant display. Very quickly, this power from the future unleashed a beam aimed at everyone, but unfortunately men blasted it skyward, leaving everyone stunned. The devastating ray began to fall, targeting the Empire's massive magic furnaces. This happened because once the magic tracking feature activated, the energy would automatically seek out its source. After Main's interference, it switched to targeting other sources of magic below. Delius angrily asked who added that feature, then realized it was his own command. In his anger towards the foolish Emperor, the scientist had walked away without care. Seeing this, his colleagues also fled hastily, leaving only the assistant behind. The 3 all left, knowing they couldn't survive long in that place. The Emperor, furious, could only watch as his prized creation was slowly destroyed. Those magic furnaces were priceless treasures to him. By the time he realized his mistake, it was already too late to save anything. Rewinding to minutes earlier, after news groups spotted the Emperor hiding inside a rare metal structure, they were helpless. Lin Bo called for the teacher to wake just as the destructive beam was fired. Being in its path, they couldn't dodge and planned to use Inez's shield to block it. Of course, men understood the danger and quickly regained composure to step forward and stop the beam. Thanks to him, the others were safe as the power was redirected. Meanwhile, Nu had jumped off the demon dragon, free-falling from above to lessen the impact on his body, using his mystical iron staff like a board to slide down. The super-hard metal structure was pierced through many flaws. At the same time, after wreaking havoc on his own land, the Emperor paid the price. The talented general and others, fed up with Delius's foolishness, rebelled more precisely. They wanted to depose the king and restore order. But this old man's fate was strong. He didn't die when men fell right onto him. Seeing Nu's face, he was even more terrified than facing death. The others, seeing men suddenly appear, misunderstood and thought he was protecting the emperor. Men tried to calm them down and explain, but they refused and attacked immediately. Our young hero saw Delius in danger and told him to duck. Before he could, Nu pressed Delius's head down to the floor. Then the others realized Men was a master and joined forces to fight. Yet, the skill gap was immense. Nu's sword swings sent them flying. The general declared that this old fool had pushed the country to the brink beyond repair. Men stood up to defend him, but Nu wanted to talk first since the emperor still owed reparations for the damage caused. Tempers flared, and the battle continued. When bombs were thrown, the mountain man brother quickly kicked the emperor's head against the wall. Honestly, even without the other 10, the enemy might have been finished. Then the old man scolded them for attacking an elder right after kicking him, leaving everyone speechless. The two sides kept throwing insults and attacks, making Delius miserable. Luckily, he wore legendary armor, otherwise he would have been toast from the start. Seeing men slam him like a broken blanket, they asked if he planned to execute Delius himself. Misunderstandings piled up since men literally fell from the sky and couldn't explain. They wanted to end the emperor's life quickly before dealing with the demon dragon enemy. The disaster heading toward the empire made everyone think the kingdom's people were coming for revenge. The truth was they just rode dragons for speed, not war. Suddenly, the empire's destroyers attacked, while the 10 others tried to protect by surrendering and offering the king's head, hoping to end it all. At that moment, other high-ranking members entered and thanked the general for his loyalty, but said killing the emperor was unnecessary. The dead cannot atone, so the old man must live and pay for his crimes. Seeing his sister arrive, men felt relieved. Thank goodness they hadn't been late otherwise. Nu might have ended the old man's life already. Afterwards, men asked permission to handle the rest. Naturally, the others knew the kingdom's representatives and obeyed. Nu's student was taken out for treatment. She vowed to repay their kindness fully. Of course, this guy didn't need to be told not to beat up old men next time they hadn't even touched the old man yet. The other fellow laughed at Nu's reasoning, calling him interesting. He reminded him that from now on, the 10 would wholeheartedly support this benefactor. Sounds serious. Seeing that his sister had arrived, he felt reassured. Thankfully, if they had arrived a moment later, that old man might have already met his end. Then he asked his sister for permission to handle the remaining matters. Naturally, the people on the other side realized they were representatives of the kingdom and agreed. His sister took the injured outside for treatment, while the younger brother sent his greetings to the 10 great heroes who stood as protectors of this empire. Sadly, they were treated like discarded pieces, with no place to prove their worth. He approached Delius, hearing the pleas from the old man. He agreed, but only if the old man returned what he had taken from their kingdom first. This included the 23 missing individuals whose fates were uncertain, 19 severely injured, 13 who had perished in the flames, and 38 others who had been torn apart by beasts. This was the sum of the human losses the kingdom had suffered. He said if the old man could endure the pain that those people had faced, he would be forgiven. After repaying his blood debt, they would discuss the costs for war reparations. The 10 great heroes unanimously agreed with this proposal, scaring Delius into a state of panic. He protested that he only had one life. How could he repay it? But they reassured him that he could recover his limbs, so there was no need to worry. If he fainted from the pain, Cario could revive him. What he faced was nothing short of hell. The emperor continued to be terrified, fearing he might wet himself. They merely wanted him to understand what the people of the kingdom had to endure. There was no malice intended. After a while, his sister's wounds were healed. Marlong, in the meantime, was sunbathing, waiting for further orders. The two of them looked down at the heap of wreckage below, feeling sorrowful. He was the one who had knocked the source of light down. He feared someone might be sucked into it and lose their life. Linbok reassured him that the teacher had done well. If not for him, everyone would have perished. She thought no one would die, as most of the destruction beams targeted the mana furnace, a place humans could not enter, ensuring their safety. The only consequence was the livelihood of the people here after losing their entire energy supply. Her older brother emerged, announcing that he had settled everything. From now on, both nations would gradually work to remedy the consequences of war. Nu innocently remarked that the war had just ended. They should have negotiated from the start, while he was the very catalyst for this incident. The other 4 were left speechless. Nu inquired about the emperor and learned that he was still alive but had abdicated. The chosen successor was likely the old man's grandson, but he was only 10 years old. The successor, indeed, was one of the 10 great heroes. The general from the opposing side also came to greet his sister with respect after hearing that her brother had ended the war between the two countries. They were immensely grateful. Just moments ago, they had been prevented from attacking the emperor. Otherwise, this nation would have been plunged into civil war. He also apologized for attacking her and promised that if there was anything they could do, the 10 of them would do their utmost to repay the favor. Of course, this guy didn't need to remind them not to harm the old man. They hadn't even laid a finger on him yet. The young man from the opposing side chuckled at Nu's reasoning. He was indeed an interesting person. He reiterated that from now on, the 10 of them would wholeheartedly assist this benefactor. Nu asked if there were any damages to the city that required compensation. His partner informed him that there were currently no casualties, as Lin Bok had mentioned. Moreover, since they had broken the treaty by launching an attack, the consequences were quite lenient. Ma Long was saddened that he couldn't seek revenge but didn't dare act recklessly, so he requested to return. Upon hearing this, Nu also asked him to take everyone back. Before departing, his partner introduced himself as Lus from the 10 Great Heroes, saying it would be easier to address each other next time. As they took off, his sister requested the dragon to fly a little lower, as she was scared. Lin Bok thought the teacher was worried about the people below, only to turn around and find him unconscious. After they returned, they reported that the war had ended, and the one who had contributed the most was truly the one who had shouldered everything alone. Nu also asked if the city's damage needed compensation. The friends said there were no casualties, just as Lin Bo had said. Moreover, the other side had broken the treaty by attacking first and now faced mild consequences. The demon dragon couldn't get revenge and was sad but dared not act recklessly, so they asked to return home. Hearing that, Nu asked him to take everyone back. Oh, and the friend introduced himself as Luce from the 10th Corps Stronghold, so next time it'd be easier to address Nu. Nu asks if the city's damage needs compensation. His friend replies there were no casualties, just like Lin's father said. Besides, they broke the treaty first and now face the consequences, which aren't so bad. The demon dragon is sad it can't take revenge but dares not act recklessly, so it asks to return. Hearing this, Nu asks him to bring everyone back. Almost forgot the friend introduces himself as Lus from the 10th Squad, making it easier to address Nu next time. As they take off, Men tells Nu to tell the dragon to fly a bit lower, he's too scared. Lin Bok thought the master was worried for the people below but turns to find him unconscious. After returning, they announce the war is over, with one person carrying the weight of victory alone. The kingdom plans to honor him greatly. Nu declines, but it's not that simple. The people must know the hero's name. He says he lacks nothing. If given anything, a sword like this would be enough. Suddenly, he remembers Rolo has nowhere to stay, so he requests the reward be that she live here. The king knows she's a demon tribe member, but sees Menkei protecting the boy and agrees. Actually, the king wanted Rolo to live with him but feared financial instability. For now, to live here, Rolo must become a citizen. She played a big role too. Her talks with the dragon helped end the conflict sooner. Until now, the king thought the young brother was controlling the demon dragon. Nu wants nothing more. The kingdom's people are struggling. If there's gold or riches, better to help others. Seeing this young man's noble heart, everyone respects him. In Rolo's mind, she's deeply grateful to her kind big brother. She always dreamed of a good meal and nice clothes, and today, that dream finally feels within reach. Inez will take responsibility for making sure it all works out. At first, the boy was shy, but after her gentle urging, he tasted for the first time soft, delicious food. Rolo felt pure happiness through joy, unlike the usual survival on tough rations. After everything settled, the kingdom's people returned to repair the damage. The elderly and women were prioritized, while the men and soldiers handled the cleanup. Though everyone mourned their losses, survival was a blessing. Nu had nothing to do and wandered around, seeing scenes of sorrow everywhere. He feared for Stella and the people in the neighborhood he often visited. Luckily, the guild hadn't suffered serious damage. Nu found a weathered signboard that stirred deep memories. It had been a while since he'd looked at it closely. Back then, he'd visit daily, dreaming of becoming an adventurer. After leaving the sword school, the guildmaster had been shocked. How could anyone finish 3 years of training without mastering a single skill? The basic skills test showed Nu was unqualified to join the guild and needed to find a new teacher. He was relieved to reconnect with old instructors. 15 years later, at that moment, Nu began asking to enroll in the sword school. Being underage, Master Shi requested a recommendation letter. Thankfully, a kind uncle in the guild wrote one, so he was accepted. Despite knowing the training would be grueling, the boy's fierce passion propelled him into this new life. After 3 days of practice, Shi noticed the young man's exceptional physical strength. Day by day, he mastered sword swings with excellence. After 10 days of hard training, he was officially recognized. One fateful day, the trainees were tested by striking a massive, ton-heavy, orb-daunting task that terrified everyone. When it was Nu's turn, disaster struck. He twisted his wrist, trying to strike it. The teacher, content missing, in original, no rewrite needed. The instructor shouted that even if his arm shattered, he must wield his sword, for enemies won't wait. Those words were meant as a reminder, but to everyone's astonishment, he took up the sword with unwavering determination. Pushed to the limits of body and spirit, he persevered. Days later, he approached the instructor, asking when he would learn advanced techniques. The answer, however, lay in individual progress. He waited impatiently, yearning for a demonstration of skills he could use right away. Reluctantly, the instructor showcased his rapid techniques, leaving the boy in awe as he struggled to keep up with the speed. The instructor thought it was understandable since this was advanced technique, nearly impossible for a young boy's eyes to grasp. Just then, the boy recounted every movement and sword strike the instructor had executed, leaving the teacher speechless and delighted. With potential like this, he could reach or even surpass his teacher's level with more training. However, after 2 months of intense practice, the instructor was left questioning what had happened. Despite the boy's natural talent, he could only grasp the basics, while other techniques remained elusive. The boy desperately needed to learn another skill to achieve his dream of becoming an adventurer, yet that dream remained unfulfilled. At the end of the 3-month training, he had only mastered the basics, and nothing else. Though the instructor wanted to keep such talent, he feared he would waste the boy's time. Perhaps swordsmanship wasn't his calling, and so he gently encouraged the boy to pursue a different path, feeling regret for only having seen the boy's limitations with the sword, while recognizing his exceptional qualities in every other aspect. Respecting his teacher's wishes, the boy transitioned to the Warrior Training Academy. Initially, the instructor thought he was joking, but upon realizing this was the boy the teacher had taken under his wing, he accepted him. Here, everyone was tall and robust, able to shield their teammates, while the boy was small yet surprisingly strong. After 2 months of training, the warrior recruits faced grueling endurance tests, having to catch falling boulders with their bare hands. The boy proved more than capable, impressing even his instructor with his resilience. Just then, disaster struck as an enormous boulder plummeted down. While his peers fled in panic, he stood his ground, ready to catch it. Seeing the danger, the instructor rushed in to save him, realizing too late that it was a grave mistake. The boy's unwavering gaze revealed his conviction. He believed he could catch it, embodying the steely spirit a warrior needs to become an unyielding shield. Just like his teacher, he held great expectations for the boy, yet after 3 months of training it seemed all efforts had been in vain. Basic skills enhance physicality. It's true that men is putting in a tremendous effort, but if he remains in a place where he doesn't belong, it's all in vain. Thus, Dandar must send talent elsewhere to avoid wasting it, as staying here won't foster growth. The next place Men joins is an archery school. Initially, Mian is eager to hand over a bow to the young rock, insisting he must hit the distant stick to gain entry. However, what she doesn't realize is that the extraordinary aiming ability and incredible strength from him send the stick flying with pinpoint accuracy, leaving the girl gaping in shock. She insists he throw again, but the result remains unchanged. So, she reluctantly agrees to let him in. Here, men won't learn archery, but instead, stone throwing, targeting an iron shield. The naive boy innocently asks his teacher why he's throwing stones every day, while in Mian's mind, a bad feeling lingers about letting this young man throw stones, but seeing his insistence, she allows him to try. At first, Men is thrilled to have his own bow. Yet, moments later, the bow shatters due to his strong grip. Just as Mian feared, in a single day, this guy wrecked all the bows in the school. Since the supplies were exhausted, the teacher had no choice but to lend him her prized bow. Yet still, the result didn't change one gentle pull, and it was gone. So the teacher lent him her finest bow to use instead, but the result didn't change. With a soft pull, the orb shattered instantly, there was nothing left. From that day, New earned the nickname Destroyer of Bows, and was teased mercilessly for the rest of his life. They threw stones at him so much that even his iron shield was pierced. The teacher asked him where he learned to throw stones so accurately. Turns out, he hadn't learned anywhere living on the mountain. He often hurled stones to kill predatory birds. The teacher was shocked, because those birds were swift, and nearly impossible to height even. She struggled to shoot them, but Nu could hit them with stones effortlessly. She wondered why keep a kid like that around. In the end, she kicked him out too skilled. With stone-throwing talent so sharp, why bother with a bow? The infamous reputation of the Trap Destroyer had already reached the ears of Men's next mentor, Cairo. Naturally, he agreed to teach Men the highest skills of a thief. Men's stealthy movements were highly praised. He could move without making a sound. The next training forced them to rely on their senses to detect and dodge traps. While the others were still clueless, Men happily dashed forward. His reflexes were so sharp that these traps were mere child's play. Plus, with his Paris and enhanced physique, he was effortlessly agile, and even used stone throwing to help others. The mentor was stunned the goal was to avoid traps, but men boldly moved straight ahead. This earned him the legendary nickname, the Trap Destroyer. About 3 months later, Cairo gave up on men as a student. He couldn't find a single trap that men didn't just destroy outright. This wasn't fitting for a thief's path, so he decided it was better for someone else to teach him. However, if men ever abandoned his adventurer dream, he'd be recruited into the kingdom's intelligence unit because of his speed and came with a recommendation letter. Men then began apprenticing under Master Oaken to learn magic. Knowing men had trained at many places without success, Oaken promised to help him break through. But after 2 months of training, their efforts were a comedy of errors. The magic felt like constipation, refusing to flow. Even Oaken was baffled because the magical energy inside men ran like normal blood, blocking magic use. After 2 months of zero progress, Oaken switched tactics. He locked men inside a magic resonance chamber, warning him to exit if he felt discomfort. "Trust me," men said, then disappeared into the chamber for days. When Oaken nervously checked, Men was still peacefully sleeping. "Do you feel anything?" he asked. Men shook his head clearly. He hadn't grasped magic yet. Oaken sent him back inside. Eventually, Men succeeded in creating a tiny magic orb. Even Oaken was stunned. "I spent 50 years making one. This kid did it in 3 months. Then Men casually made another orb with the other hand, sending Oaken into a panic. Despite his magical talent, his physical skills were weak, making adventuring impossible. Oaken felt it was a waste. Men's awakening was brilliant, but his body resisted magic use. Next, Men was sent to the church to learn healing magic under Master Sen. Asked if he'd ever performed a blessing ritual, Men admitted he didn't even know what that was. He'd lived a simple mountain life, happy to eat 3 meals a day. Sen explained that only chosen individuals were taught here and tried to send him away, but Men vowed he wouldn't leave without acceptance. Sen put Men through enduring tests during snowy days. Though Men lacked many qualities, he never lacked determination or stamina. Sen was shocked to see him standing firm for days on end. When Men finally collapsed from exhaustion, Sen granted him special healing and began teaching some basics. Surprisingly, despite missing his childhood blessing, Men could still use healing magic. Sadly, these skills weren't enough for an adventurer. Men was disappointed, feeling he wasn't suited for anything. After 3 months, he left, with Sen reminding him that even basic healing without a blessing was a feat and encouraging him to keep training. Perhaps Men didn't need Ritualshi's ability might be a limitless wellspring of magical power. News of Men's disappearance from the capital sent the 6 saints into an emergency meeting. Everyone adored Men, hoping the others could help him grow. Sen blamed himself for not keeping Men close enough to be taught by all 6 masters simultaneously, believing Men could become extraordinary if that happened. But no one knew where Men had gone. The mountain where Men lived was sealed by powerful barriers that no one could penetrate except Men himself. Since then, the 6 saints scoured the land for talent but found no trace. Men had escaped to train alone for 14 years, growing into the formidable figure we know now. Still, no one knew if he ever planned to return the favor to his kind mentor. The masters wondered if Men was on his way back to Mara to help clean up, but he agreed nonetheless. That night, he used mystic iron instead of a haul to work efficiently. Recalling the past days, nothing was more unforgettable than being blown away multiple times by Lin's magic in a single day. Other dangers paled in comparison. Meanwhile, the king spoke of the Empire as the immediate enemy, but behind them was another nation supplying the Empire with precious magic stones. The kingdom's only real asset was its people, and among them, none was more trustworthy than Men. That morning, Lin had blown Men away again, but seeing his mentor hungry, Men gave him bread before continuing to distribute food. With some carbs in his system, Men regained his spirit and returned to sword training. He knew he wouldn't earn heroic fame just by holding the blade, but he still loved the adventurer's life, just like the stories his father told of heroes roaming the world. For now, he would stay here, contributing